Chapter 1472. In the beautiful wilderness, Jun Changshao sat alone on a rock. From afar, he looked like a dispirited old man with one foot in the grave. Emptying his 3 points was too much of a blow to him. It had been a few days since he left Magic Fate City, and he was still in a state of mental collapse. It was not easy to earn money these days, and Go Sheng had become a pauper in the blink of an eye after activating some crappy mode. Second senior brother. Yao Menjing took a bite of a roasted chicken drumstick, and said with her mouth full of oil, "Patriarch hasn't eaten or drunk anything for a few days. I'm so heartbroken that I've lost my appetite. Do you want to go talk to him?" Su Xiaoma asked. "You go?" "Sure." Su Xiaoma walked over carefully, but before he could say anything, Jun Changshao suddenly turned around and grabbed him by the neck, roaring, "I'll kill you." He was possessed. Seeing people was like seeing the system. "Zon! Patriarch, it's me." Under Su Xiaoma's intermittent cries, Jun Changshao finally regained his senses and kicked him away. He squatted on the rock and covered his face, howling, "My 3 points, my 3 points." Sigh. The system sighed. "If I knew it would bring such a huge blow to the host, I definitely wouldn't have activated the crisis resolution mode." "Don't talk to me about the mode." Jun Changshao clutched his chest. "My heart hurts." The system said, "Although the host's 3 points have been emptied, you still received a huge benefit." "Bullshit!" Jun Changshao roared. "So many contribution points and achievement points, if you don't give me some benefits, how am I supposed to live? Let's talk about it later. All I got was a physique and little Xia and little Hua's strength increased. Compared to a few million, I can't even bear to look at it." Go Sheng was on the verge of breaking down. So what if it was emptied? Shouldn't he at least get some benefits? In the end, he only got Yao Menjing to inherit the demon Khanate holy demon physique, and little Xia and little Hua to evolve into teenagers. It was a huge loss. Indeed. If he were to spend a few million contribution points on the merchant shop, the benefits he would obtain would definitely be much greater than the benefits of 1 disciple and 2 spirit bodies. In my opinion. The system said calmly, "Even if there's no reward, it's worth it to be able to save the life of the host and disciple." Jun Changshao could not refute this. Exchanging 3 points for safety was indeed the best deal. AI. Jun Changshao sighed and said, "I seem to have become too unscrupulous." Furthermore, the system said, "The host even accidentally awakened the bloodline of the Stone Statue clan because of this. No matter how you look at it, this transaction is definitely worth it." At the mention of the Stone Statue race, Jun Changshao immediately became serious and said, "Why do I have such a bloodline? Could it be that the original owner has some secret identity?" Although he didn't want to admit it, Go Sheng was indeed human. Awakening the Stone Statue race's bloodline in the land of demonic affinity was truly incomprehensible. It went against common sense. Unless, the original owner was not human to begin with. I understand now. Jun Changshao came to a realization and said, "I'm actually a prince left behind by the Stone Statue race outside. The entire race is waiting for me to revive." The system broke down and said, "The host's imagination is a little wild." Jun Changshao used to fantasize that his father was the Celestial Emperor, his mother was the Celestial Empress, and he was the son of heaven who was stranded in the human world. Now that he had awakened the bloodline of the Stone Statue race, although it was a little different from his ideal, it was still acceptable. Pooey. The system could not help but spit. Jun Changshao said, "You might think that I'm indulging in fantasy, but how do you explain the bloodline awakening?" Very simple. The system said, "When the host was disturbed by the demonic aura, the stone statue flew out and merged into the host's body on its own. Only then did the host awaken the bloodline of the stone statue race. So in the end, the reason lies with that stone statue." Stone statue. Jun Changshao hurriedly looked into the space ring and found that the gargoyle-like thing was gone. The system said, "If I'm not wrong, the the stone statue should contain the bloodline of the stone statue race. It successfully merged with the host in the crisis mode. What do you mean? Yes, although the host now has the bloodline of the stone statue race, but strictly speaking, the host is not a real stone statue race. At most, the host belongs to the bloodline inheritor or carrier. The system's analysis was reasonable, making Jun Changshao speechless. Sigh. He sighed and said, "Why is it so difficult to find a powerful identity?" After the system's earnest persuasion, and the fact that he has the bloodline of the stone statue race, Jun Changshao's bad mood gradually improved. In fact, spending all 3 points to obtain the bloodline of the stone statue race is a super profit. After all, the bloodline is not something that others can casually inherit. What's more, in the past, when he used the stone statue, he would gradually be devoured by the power and lose his rationality. Now that he inherits the bloodline, although it is a bit cruel and ruthless, at least he can control his thoughts and will not hurt the innocent. This is my trump card. Jun Changshao secretly said, "Awaken the bloodline and obtain the armament hockey." Is it a loss? Not a loss, a big gain. Snap! Jun Changshao jumped down from the stone, snapped his fingers, and said loudly, "Babies, return to the sect." After thinking it through, he felt refreshed. Seeing the patriarch recover from his depression, Li Qingyang breathed a sigh of relief and secretly said, "Junior brother Su's kick was not in vain." "Brother, is there a forbidden area on the way back to the sect?" "Yes, there are a lot. Let's go in and have a look." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and others' eyes suddenly lit up. This time, the patriarch will take them to the forbidden area, and there will be a big harvest in martial arts and resources. The major forbidden areas said that they are a little panicked now. Back to the time when Yao Menjing inherited the innate Saint Devil body, the blood pool in the ancient altar boiled again and sputtered bright red blood, adding another line to the huge black shadow on the wall. "Although I can't rely on the land of demon affinity to resurrect my lord, it still doesn't hinder another resurrection plan." The eyes of the black-robed elders sitting in the east flashed with excitement. "When they successfully bring back my lord's remnant soul and nourish it with the devil blood, it will be the day when the upper realm ushers in a nightmare." The other black-robed elders sitting in the other 3 positions were also very excited, as if they had fallen into a beautiful fantasy of the future. However, the elder in the east said solemnly, "We must find a way to enter the demonic territory as soon as possible and unseal the million demonic army. Only then can we assist the resurrected demonic lord to do great things in the upper realm. Only the Jie Hall knows the method of sealing. Let Jin Hao find it quickly, we can't delay any longer. That kid has been investigating Gu Zhaoxi recently. Does he really think of himself as a member of the Jie Hall? After being a spy for so long, does he still want to be a good person? Pass down the order. He must find a way to break the seal of the demonic territory as soon as possible, otherwise, he can come back with his head." On a mountain peak, Jin Hao, who was wearing golden armor and sitting on a chariot, had received the order. He was quite dissatisfied and said, "If the method to break the seal can be found easily, why would I be a spy in the Jie Hall for so long?" Coo. At this moment, a strange sound came from afar. Jin Hao got the information from it, smiled coldly, and said, "That guy actually dares to go to the forbidden area, isn't he afraid that he will die in there again?" Swoosh! The chariot cut through the sky. The direction was the forbidden area that Jun Changshao brought his disciples to. Chapter 1473. Ironwood Forest. Third-class forbidden area of the upper realm. Due to the fact that it produced trees that were as hard as iron, it got the name Ironwood Forest. Ironwood could be used to make equipment, so even if there were no treasures here, it would still attract many martial artists to mine it. At this moment, Jun Changshao led his disciples into the Ironwood Forest. The sound of the wind howling in the air seemed to indicate that the forbidden area was crying. The rogue cultivators who were entering and exiting noticed them, especially when they saw the word ancient written on it, and immediately determined their identity. Why are the people from the sect of all times here? Could it be that they're here for training? I heard that it was this sect that set the demonic fog forest on fire not long ago. Everyone discussed in private and subconsciously kept a distance from them, afraid that they would accidentally provoke them and be labeled as shameful villains. Picking up a rock when you go out is a divine weapon. The routine of meeting enemies in the wild did not apply to Jun Changshao, because any passerby with a bit of intelligence would avoid him. Of course. Go Sheng was not the kind of person who would cause trouble for no reason. This time, he came to the Ironwood Forest to bring his disciples for training, and at the same time, to obtain martial arts resources to comfort the dead three values. Masters Jr. Xiao Ziji stopped in front of a tree that seemed to be plated with a layer of iron, and said, "Is this ironwood?" "That's right." Gu Zhaoxi nodded. Bang! Xiao Ziji punched it, but the ironwood only shook and did not break, so he said in surprise, "This tree is so hard." Gu Zhaoxi said, "The older the ironwood, the stronger its defense, so it will become the best defensive material in the hands of a master blacksmith. You can bring it back and let Clan Master Fan refine it," Jun Changshao said while holding his chin. Although weapons and equipment could be forged in the blacksmith pavilion, they still needed materials and could not be mass-produced. If they used materials from the upper realm and let Fan Yezi refine it into equipment, it would undoubtedly improve the strength of the core. There was nothing wrong with this patriarch who was always thinking for the sect. Of course. As a certain reader who was known to be a hater, he would definitely overinterpret. "Don't just stand there." Jun Changshao said, "Let's start mining." "Yes." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others took out their sharp swords and asked, "Patriarch, how many do you want to bring back?" "Of course I'm taking them all," Jun Changshao said. "Understood." They came to the iron tree that Xiao Ziji had found, cut it down quickly, and then divided it into several pieces and threw them into the space. The whole process could be described as simple and quick. Because they were on the outskirts of the forbidden area, trees that were as hard as iron were not commonly seen. Li Qingyang and the others searched for more than half a circle and only managed to cut down 4 or 5 trees. Thus, they had no choice but to head to the deepest part of the forbidden area. However, they ran into some trouble during the cutting process. This was because the older and better the quality of the ironwood, the more likely it was to be accompanied by iron-armored demonic beasts. Ding! Li Qingyang brandished his sword and slashed it down, causing sparks to fly. Gu Zhaoxi said, "This kind of demonic beast that lives on ironwood has an extremely strong defense, and the iron armor on its body is also very suitable for making equipment. Then we'll take them with us." Since they had come to the treasure mountain, they would definitely take everything they could. As a result, Li Qingyang had another mission to hunt down the iron-armored demonic beasts while cutting down the ironwood. Die! Hoo-hoo! An unparalleled power erupted from the halberd, and dozens of iron-armored demonic beasts were cut in half at the waist in an area where the ironwood gathered. The scene was extremely brutal and bloody. Shwa! Su Xiaoma took a step forward with his 2 long legs and stored the iron armor scattered on the ground into his space ring as quickly as possible. Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji were responsible for cutting down the iron wood, while he and Yi Xingchen were responsible for dealing with the demonic beasts. Because of the clear division of labor, the collection of resources was very efficient, and they had a great harvest in a short period of time. The martial artists who followed in were dumbfounded. If this kind of cutting and hunting speed continued for a period of time, the ironwood forest would definitely cease to exist. This is too scary. This is simply a merciless sweep. Is the ironwood forest going to follow in the footsteps of the demonic mist forest? No, no. We can't fall behind. We have to take this opportunity to cut down a few more ironwood, or else we won't have another chance in the future. Because the Sect of All Time's disciples were crazily cutting down the iron wood and attracting a large number of iron-armored demonic beasts, the martial artists were suddenly emboldened. Everyone. Jun Changshao said indifferently, "The ironwood here belongs to my Sect of All Times. If any of you dare to take one, I will go to your house tomorrow to eat." The disciples were in the front to lure the beasts, and you guys were in the back to pick up the leftovers. There was no such good thing in the world. Who? A powerful aura instantly erupted, causing the martial artists to tremble in fear. Fine. You are strong, you have the final say. The martial artists hurriedly gave up on the idea of cutting down the iron wood and turned into the purest spectators. They watched as the disciples of the sect of all times put the iron wood into their spatial rings, their eyes filled with envy and jealousy. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, a deafening roar came from the depths of the forest. A huge iron-armored demonic beast that looked like a 1,000-year-old tortoise gradually stood up. A demonic beast king. Wasn't this guy sealed by the World Hall? The martial artists' eyes were filled with shock. They immediately turned and fled without looking back. With their strength, it was already very difficult to deal with a few iron-armored demonic beasts, not to mention a demonic beast king. Thus, fleeing was a wise choice. Brother, Gu Zhaoxi said, something's not right. He had naturally heard that a demonic beast king was sealed in the ironwood forest. Now that it suddenly appeared, it was a little strange. Jun Changxiao's eyes gradually turned cold. The appearance of the iron-armored demonic beast king reminded him of the demonic fog forest's demonic beast king, so he thought to himself, someone is secretly causing trouble again? In another direction of the ironwood forest. Whoosh! The flowing light gradually dissipated, and Jin Hao walked out from it. The demonic beast king of this third-class forbidden area may not be a fatal threat to that guy, but it should be able to cause some trouble. The corners of his mouth rose slightly, and a smile appeared on his face that deserved a beating. The area covered by the flowing light just now was the place where the demonic beast king was sealed. Now that the latter suddenly appeared, it definitely had something to do with Jin Hao. In other words, the sudden appearance of the demonic beast king in the demonic fog forest was also his doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so skilled. Jun Changxiao. Jin Hao jumped onto the chariot, crossed his legs, and said, although you have Jinren Tonggu as your backer, I actually have many ways to kill you. Is that so? Suddenly, a voice came from behind him. The smile on Jin Hao's face froze. He turned around and saw the guy he hated walking over step by step. Have I been discovered? He said nonchalantly. Jun Changxiao stopped a few dozen feet away from the chariot, shook his head, and said, I thought it was Empress Ling Yao who was secretly plotting against the sect of all times. I didn't expect it to be you, the loser. The words loser deeply provoked Jin Hao. He said with a ferocious face, kid, you are just relying on the treasure. Without it, you are not even a dog in front of me. Idiot. An angry voice came from the other side, clean your mouth. Jin Hao looked back and saw a young boy about 12 or 13 years old on his right, so he sneered, a kid who hasn't even grown hair yet dares to call himself a master. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi said with a gloomy face, this guy is asking for a beating. Crack crack crack. Jun Changxiao shook his arms and head, and communicated with the stone statue tribe bloodline in his body. His skin gradually turned into stone, and he said, since he is asking for a beating, then let's beat him to death today. Okay. Gu Zhaoxi clenched his fist and said, when brothers are of one mind, their sharpness can cut through metal. Chapter 1474. As soon as the iron-armored demon king appeared, Jun Changxiao immediately released his spiritual sense and scanned every corner of the forbidden area. He easily found Jin Hao who was playing tricks. Damn it! It was this guy. At first, Jun Changxiao thought it was Empress Ling Yao. After all, she was the most suspicious. He didn't consider the golden-haired guy that he had severely injured. It made sense. The golden-haired guy's chest was pierced. He would definitely find a chance to take revenge. But he didn't expect the people from the Realm Hall to be so despicable. Jin Hao, who had been caught red-handed, did not panic. To be exact, he didn't care about being discovered. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so brazen. Brother? In this cruel world, we're used. Jin Hao jumped down from the chariot. His golden armor shone brightly. The special effect was even higher than last time. Facing Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi, he wasn't weak at all. After all, he was a real 9th transformation stage. On the other hand, the former was an 8th transformation stage and the latter was a 6th transformation stage. If it was someone else, they would have run away. 8 and 6 couldn't be 14th transformation stage. Of course. Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi wouldn't run away. After all, they were the typical examples of people who didn't want to die. Their goal was the same. They had to torture this golden-haired guy to death. Huff! Jun Changshao activated the stone statue bloodline. His skin gradually turned to stone. Gu Zhaoxi also realized the opponent's strength. He didn't hide his strength at all. Brothers of life and death, facing the enemy together. Although the battle hadn't started, from the murderous aura in the air, it was obviously going to be fierce. It would be at least 3 to 5 chapters. I suggest you skip it. Boom! Boom! In the depths of the ironwood forest, Xiao Ziji was heavily armed. He fired his machine gun at full power and cooperated with Yi Xingqian to gank the armored Demon King. Although the 5-man team had Lu Qianqian, the mage in the middle lane, they had Su Xiaoma, the wandering assassin. Their teamwork was still strong. Roar! The iron-armored Monster King roared in anger after being hit by so many attacks. The Monster King's demonic energy erupted and the iron trees were uprooted from the ground. Under the flowing light they turned into sharp thorns. Swish! Swish! Shield up! As the sharp thorns approached, Xiao Ziji switched from an offensive state to a defensive state. Numerous shield-shaped barriers appeared in front of everyone. Ding! 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 Although the ironwood was extremely sharp under the enhancement of strength, when it collided with the shield, it was all bounced back and then stabbed into the ground in a crooked manner. Die! While the target was attacking, Yi Xingqian took advantage of the opening and jumped over. His sky piercer drew a bright arc in the air and ruthlessly swept the armor. Boom boom boom. The surrounding ironwood was broken into 2 pieces. There are only some scratches on the iron shell of the iron-armored Demon King Sword Shadow. Obviously, its defense is not weaker than Xiao Ziji's when the words are activated. In terms of strength, this beast is obviously stronger than the demonic fog Monster King, especially in terms of hardcore defense. However, this third-class forbidden area has no demonic fog and will not affect the soul. Therefore, in terms of danger, it is not as dangerous as the demonic fog forest. Although Li Qingyang and the others can't do anything to it for the time being, it is hard to say if they can exhaust it. On the other side, Jun Changshao, Gu Zhaoxi, and Jin Hao started fighting. The 3 of them are all high-level revolving core realm, so their attacks have their own special effects. Especially when they attack, the movement is very explosive. Heaven crossing palm print. Hoo hoo. Hoo hoo hoo. The palm prints in the sky gathered together and interweaved into an inescapable net. Gu Zhaoxi has learned many martial arts before. He can even be described as a walking martial arts framework. However, after joining the Sect of all times and learning the unique martial arts, he realized that what he learned before is nothing. Boom! 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 The powerful palm prints crazily pressed down, and the ground trembled violently under the attack. The violent energy spread in all directions wave after wave. The martial artists who have retreated to the periphery of the ironwood forest are stunned. The battle between the Sect of all times and the iron-armored Monster King is already intense enough. No one expected an even more intense battle to come from the other direction. Boom! Suddenly, a golden light burst out from the depths, causing the martial artists to close their eyes. Dang dang dang! Gu Zhaoxi staggered back, grimacing in pain as he clutched his chest. In the area full of palm prints, Jin Hao walked out step by step. His whole body is shrouded in golden light, and a look of disdain appeared on his face. Is this all you can do? Swish! Suddenly, Jun Changshao flew over from the side with the brush in his hand. His strokes were as powerful as lightning, and he used all his strength to draw a large character in the air. Buzz buzz buzz! In an instant, the words exploded in front of Jin Hao like a bomb. Huff huff! The violent energy was like a tsunami as it pressed down in all directions, instantly destroying the nearby rocks and trees. Brother actually knows this move. Gu Zhaoxi was surprised. Swish! Suddenly, Jin Hao rushed out from the violent airwaves and threw a seemingly simple right hook in slow motion. Huff huff! The golden energy burst out and a fist shadow appeared. Boom! Gu Zhaoxi used his left cheek to take the heavy punch. His whole body was lifted off the ground, and he smashed more than 10 ironwood trees before falling to the ground in a sorry state. Jun Changshao's sneak attacked him, and he got beaten up in return. Exquisite! Damn it! Gu Zhaoxi jumped up and covered his swollen left cheek. His eyes flashed with anger, and then he bit his right thumb and said, "I will kill you." Boom! In an instant, his body expanded. He originally looked weak, but now he was quite sturdy. Body transformation technique? Jin Hao was stunned at first, but then he sneered and said, "So you are the traitor who went against the Jie Hall, Gu Zhaoxi." This kind of martial art that could change one's body in an instant was one of Gu Zhaoxi's signature martial arts. So when he used it, it was equivalent to telling others his identity. TSK TSK. The patriarch of the sect of all times and the traitor call each other brothers. This is interesting. Jin Hao's smile grew. He had been playing dirty in the dark, mainly because he represented the Jie Hall. He could not be too obvious. Now that the other party was colluding with the traitor, he had a good reason to attack. According to the rules of the Jie Hall, anyone who is related to the traitor will be classified as the same kind. Jun Changshao, since you call Gu Zhaoxi brother, I will execute my authority today and kill you in the ironwood forest. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. Jin Hao's cultivation erupted again, and the murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger. Earlier, he was just playing with you. Now that he was involved with Gu Zhaoxi, he instantly entered the "I'm going to get serious" state. Kill me. Jun Changshao sneered and said, "No one in this world can do that." Caw caw caw. The stone statue bloodline in his body was activated crazily. His originally stone-colored skin gradually turned into stone, and his appearance also changed from a human to a stone statue ghost. Gu Zhaoxi said in shock, "This guy is from the stone statue race." Boom! Before he finished speaking, Jun Changshao had already appeared in front of him, and his stone-like right fist came crashing down. Thump thump thump. The powerful force instantly pushed Jin Hao back a few steps, and the arm he used to block the attack felt a faint pain. Jun Changshao, who was standing in his previous position, had a cruel and bloodthirsty look in his eyes. Go Sheng, who was only at the 6th transformation, not only became emotionless after his bloodline was fully activated, but he also turned into a violent warrior. Ta! Gu Zhaoxi, who had grown bigger and stronger, walked over. One brother was like a killing god, while the other was like a demon. They sandwiched Jin Hao in the middle. Woo woo! Cold and fierce winds blew in the ironwood forest, as if crying that he would not live for long. Chapter 1475. Whether Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi could deal with Jin Hao would only be known in the end. However, it was certain that the ironwood forest would be heavily damaged or even destroyed. This third-class forbidden land could not withstand a fight between immortals. Moreover, the 5-man team from the Sect of all times was still fighting with the iron-armored Demon King. Although they were not as powerful as a high-level revolving core realm, neither side could do anything to the other. If they continued fighting, it would only result in the destruction of the surrounding environment. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Bullets shot out from the glowing blue muzzle. Although they could not break through the Demon King's tough armor, they still left thousands of holes in the nearby ironwood trees. Total annihilation. Yi Xingqian wielded the heavenly halberd and displayed his skills like an unparalleled war god. Large swathes of trees were cut in half. The battle gradually reached its climax. The destruction was also increasing. It's over. The ironwood forest is finished. Seeing large amounts of trees that could be used as materials being destroyed, the cultivators watching from afar were heartbroken. After all, they were all shiny Xian stones. Boom! 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 The battle on the other side was even more exciting because 3 types of violent energy had erupted, destroying the surroundings with an unstoppable force. Because of the energy fluctuations, even the ground had begun to crack. The ironwood trees could grow again if they were gone. Once the soil that nurtured these plants was destroyed, it would be fatal. The cultivators did not have time to feel sorry for the third-class forbidden land. As the battle became more and more intense, they could only retreat, afraid of being involved. Boom! 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 Jun Changshao, who had completely transformed into a gargoyle, seemed to have turned into a fierce and fast boxer. He used all kinds of moves to attack Jin Hao. Under the explosion of energy, every punch of his had the special effect of tearing space. As one of the 3 strongest races, the gargoyle race did not have any deep understanding of martial arts. They always pursued fast, ruthless, and accurate. To put it bluntly, it was a race that could fight a tough battle and was good at it. Jun Changshao, who had transformed into a gargoyle, displayed this characteristic to the fullest. At this moment, he had completely abandoned the flowery human appearance. Even the most ordinary of moves contained the power of 10,000 caddies. Jin Hao was caught in a stalemate. He did not have the time to gather his strength to unleash any martial arts techniques. He could only passively fall into his opponent's rhythm. Furthermore, he had to constantly pay attention to the traitor behind him, whose physique was increasing. Gu Zhaoxi was not in a hurry to make a move. In his opinion, his brother, who had activated the bloodline of the stone statue, would not be at a disadvantage for a short period of time. He could totally take advantage of his brother's unpreparedness to steal the peach or something similar. You set me up, I set you up. This was because it was impolite not to reciprocate. Boom! At this time, Jun Changshao and Jin Hao had exchanged more than 10 moves, and both of them were forced to retreat a few steps. With the support of the stone statue bloodline, although he possessed more violent power than before, it was impossible for him to suppress a 9th transformation Dan realm expert. Chance! Gu Zhaoxi finally grasped the opportunity. While Jin Hao had yet to make a move, he rushed over. It looked like he was attacking from 3 directions, but in reality, he was delivering an extremely vicious kick to Jin Hao's crotch. When such a sinister move was executed by a high-level core transformation realm expert, the energy it gathered could be said to be quite explosive. It did not even seem sinister. In fact, one would even feel a sense of awe. A weakling using a sinister move was vulgar, but an expert using a sinister move was noble. Watch! Clang! Faster than words could tell, the right leg that had gathered explosive strength kicked Jin Hao's crotch from behind. The sound of metal colliding rang out. Ah! Ah! Gu Zhaoxi retracted his leg and jumped up and down, howling in pain. He had kicked an ideal spot, but Jin Hao had already formed an absolute defense. This kick was like kicking a spiked iron plate. An intense pain came from his calf bone, as if it was about to break. Boom! Jin Hao turned around and sent Gu Zhaoxi flying with a kick. When he retracted his leg and stood up proudly, one could see that his exposed skin was as dazzling as his battle armor. You have the body transformation art. You have the stone statue race bloodline. Sorry, I also have a way to increase my strength. Jun Changshao frowned. Jin Hao's entire body had turned golden, and his strength had obviously increased. He and his brother might not be able to take advantage of him. Kid! Jin Hao shook his head, and the arrogance on his face grew. 2 years ago, you relied on your supreme treasure to injure me. Now that you don't have that trump card, you're just trash. Thank you for the reminder. Jun Changshao waved his hand, and the divine modified lightning rod appeared in his hand. Seeing the supreme treasure that had pierced through his chest, Jin Hao's smile disappeared, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Gu Chaoshi thought joyfully, brother still has a trick up his sleeve. The appearance of the divine modified lightning rod had indeed intimidated Jin Hao. However, after a while, he sneered and said, although that thing in your hand is powerful, it can only be used once. During the 2 years he had been recuperating, he had been thinking about why there had been such an intense lightning punishment when his chest had been pierced. Could it be that the guy's supreme treasure had absorbed the lightning punishment of the formation of 10,000 thunder tribulation? If that was the case, it meant that the explosive power of the item did not come from the supreme treasure itself. It could only be used after accumulating a special power. Another reason why Jin Hao was certain that the divine modified lightning rod could not pose a threat to him was that if this treasure was effective, it would have attacked him long ago. To put it bluntly, Jun Changshao took out a gun, and he bet that there were no bullets in it. Have I been seen through? Jun Changshao shook his head helplessly. Gu Zhaoxi was speechless. He had thought that his brother had taken out something like an iron rod as a trump card, but it turned out to be a bluff. The worst thing was that he had not been bluffed, and he had been mercilessly exposed. Whoosh! Jin Hao raised his hand, and a golden spear appeared out of thin air. You are quite lucky to be able to survive the punishment of the dimensional battlefield and the formation of 10,000 tribulation heavenly thunder. However, your luck will run out one day. So, in the end, you will still be. He grabbed his weapon and said with a cold gaze, unable to escape death. Whoosh! The golden light flickered, and the space trembled violently. Holy golden spear! Gu Zhaoxi hurriedly transmitted his voice, brother, this is a divine weapon that is infinitely close to the immortal level. Ta! At this moment Jin Hao placed the golden spear in front of him. The golden attribute that spread out seemed to turn into roaring golden dragon beasts, and they gradually lingered around his body. The special effect was once again pulled to the extreme. Whoosh! 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 The special effect of the high-level divine weapon and the power of the true spirit erupted crazily, instantly forming an extremely strong pressure. Not only did it disturb the battlefield crazily, but it also spread far away. What kind of power is this? It's too scary. The warriors who had retreated to the outermost periphery of the ironwood forest felt the golden light rippling from the depths, gathering around them and causing the space to tremble. Their expressions changed drastically. Ninth Transformation Core Realm cultivation, coupled with a weapon that was close to the immortal level, caused a huge phenomenon. This kind of tearing special effect caused the reader's phones to rapidly heat up, as if they would explode at any time. What are you looking at? Throw it away quickly. However, just as Jin Hao was about to attack, Jun Changshao pointed at the lightning rod and pressed the start button with his thumb. He said coldly, "Go and meet God." What? Whoosh! Suddenly, the ironwood forest that was originally covered by the golden light was replaced by a white light. An extremely strong vibration came from the ground, and the violent power of thunder and lightning crazily surged. Boom! A deafening explosion came, and Li Qingyang and the other four all stopped and looked back. The iron-armored Beast King's eyes were filled with fear, because as far as he could see, a deep trench appeared out of nowhere, as if it had directly divided the ironwood forest into two. Chapter 1476. Time returned to the stage where the various races surrounded the Sect of All Times and Jinren Tonggu came out to negotiate, and the disciples left one after another. Qingyang. At the mountain gate, Jun Changshao took out the divine modified lightning rod and said in a deep voice, "This is a treasure left behind by my ancestors. I'll give it to you today." Li Qingyang's expression changed drastically. This disciple can't accept such a valuable item. Take it. Yes. Li Qingyang took the lightning rod. Although this item was automatically bound to Jun Changshao, he could still hold it as a disciple. It was just that he couldn't use it. This disciple will cultivate diligently these 2 years and not disappoint the patriarch. Li Qingyang said seriously. Jun Changshao patted his shoulder and said, "Go." Just like that, Li Qingyang took the treasure that represented the will of his ancestors and stepped into the Thunder Chestnut region. For 2 years, he kept encouraging himself and working hard. It was no exaggeration to say that from the beginning of his training to the end, the divine modified lightning rod that accompanied him was like a faith, constantly encouraging him to move forward until he completed his studies and returned. Patriarch. This disciple has not failed his mission. As expected of the disciple I value the most. Come, present the treasure. Yes. Li Qingyang handed over the divine modified lightning rod. When he obtained it, it was dim. When he handed it back, it was full. Obviously, it had absorbed enough lightning energy during the 2 years it followed him. Here came the question. Did Jun Changshao have bullets in his gun? It seemed to be divided into two by a deep trench. Looking at the irascible lightning forest, not only did it have bullets, but it was also very powerful. Damn! As a witness, Gu Zhaoxi's eyes widened, and his legs went soft. He couldn't see the specific scene clearly. He only felt a thick white lightning bolt shoot out from his brother's treasure, and then there was a trench that was dozens of feet wide and dozens of feet deep in his field of vision. Recalling what had happened just now, it could only be described as explosive. No wonder elder brother was not afraid at all when he found out that the guy who was playing tricks in the dark had the strength of a 9th transformation core realm cultivator. It turned out that he was hiding such a terrifying killing move. Awesome! Too awesome! Gu Zhaoxi's admiration for Jun Changshao was like an endless torrential river. He should be dead, right? With such a terrifying lightning power, even if he had been on guard, he would have been killed on the spot. However, when Gu Zhaoxi looked along the end of the trench, he found that Jin Hao had disappeared. There was an obvious pool of blood on the soil, so he exclaimed, "Was it blown to smithereens?" "No." Jun Changshao said, "He ran away." "You can run." Gu Zhaoxi was even more surprised. Jun Changshao stored the lightning rod in his interspatial ring and said, "He must have used some kind of escape ability in the nick of time." What a pity, what a pity. Gu Zhaoxi shook his head, and in the next second, his eyes lit up, and then he flew to the side of the blood stains to remove the soil, and said happily, "Elder brother, this guy did not take away his golden glorious holy spear." Oh? Jun Changshao hurried over and saw the shiny golden spear half hidden in the soil. He waved his hand and picked it up, saying, "At least I got something." Using the first wish equipment, he was unable to kill that guy, but dropping a piece of equipment was still acceptable. Otherwise, it was a loss, a loss. Buzz! However, the moment Jun Changshao came into contact with the golden glorious holy spear, some kind of power erupted from the surface, and his hand was fiercely repelled. "Elder brother," Gu Zhaoxi said, "there must be an artifact spirit inside such a divine artifact, and it has signed a master-servant contract with that guy. Even if an outsider obtains it, it will be difficult to use it. It's a bit tricky." Jun Changshao separated a wisp of his soul and merged it into the golden glorious holy spear. Sure enough, he saw the artifact spirit that looked like a young man sitting cross-legged on the spot, so he advised, "A fine bird chooses a tree to nest in, following that guy is better than following me." Humph! The little guy said proudly, "I am Master's artifact spirit when I am alive, and I will also be Master's artifact spirit when I die. I will never rely on you. You have a backbone." Jun Changshao did not try to persuade him. He immediately withdrew his spiritual thoughts and threw the golden glorious holy spear into the Tianyuan prison pagoda, and said, "Area, I'll leave the artifact spirit inside to you." Yes! The prison trio immediately became spirited. "Elder brother." Outside, Gu Zhaoxi was overjoyed. That guy didn't take away his chariot. Looking at the situation, it should be a high-level flying treasure. Could this be the child of wealth, sexy online? Buzz! Thousands of miles away from the ironwood forest, the space vibrated and formed a vortex. Jin Hao, with a pale face, came out from it. Below his right shoulder was empty. Obviously, he had lost his entire arm under the lightning attack just now. No wonder his weapon was left behind. Damn it, his eyes flashed with monstrous anger. He thought that guy's gun had no bullets, but it turned out to be true. Although he was able to use a secret method to escape in time, he was seriously injured again. Jun Changshao. I swear I will not be a man if I don't kill you. He had been defeated by Jun Changshao twice in a row, and they were both lightning rods. Once his chest was pierced, and the other time his right arm was blown off. This was unacceptable for the arrogant him. Calling a traitor brother is big news. If the Jie Hall knows, even Jinren Tonggu will not be able to protect him. Jin Hao's painful face gradually turned into a hideous smile. This time, the injury of his broken arm was not as serious as before, but he needed some time to recuperate. He did not have to do it himself. With a little trick, he could bring a lot of trouble to Jun Changshao. What a pity. I can't kill him with my own hands. Suppressing the injury in his body, Jin Hao communicated with the space ring and wanted to take out the chariot, but he found that it was also in the ironwood forest. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood. Not only did he not kill the traitor, but he also lost 2 pieces of equipment. The only thing that comforted Jin Hao was that although the gold Yao holy armor was damaged, it was not a big problem and could be repaired. Otherwise, it would have been all over if he did not kill the traitor. Jun Changshao. The enmity between you and me is irreconcilable. The more Jin Hao thought about it, the angrier he became. Then, he saw clouds gathering in the sky and Empress Ling Yao appeared out of thin air. Injured by Jun Changshao again? The woman's voice was cold as usual, but there was a hint of sarcasm in it. Damn it! I've made a fool of myself again. Wait a minute. Wasn't this woman also ordered to hunt down Gu Zhaoxi? Since she knew that he was injured by Jun Changshao, she must be in the ironwood forest. Empress Ling Yao. Jin Hao's eyes were cold. The Jie Hall ordered us to investigate the traitor. Since you were there, why didn't you take him down? Still. You and Jun Changshao are in cahoots. Empress Ling Yao said calmly, don't accuse others. Humph. Jin Hao snorted. You protected Jun Changshao many times in the planar battlefield. You may be able to fool the Jie Hall, but you think you can fool me? Slash! Suddenly, the sound of a sharp blade piercing through flesh could be heard. Jin Hao's eyes widened. He lowered his head stiffly and found that his chest had been cut open by some kind of weapon. Blood dripped from the wound. You, Empress Ling Yao landed close to him and said in a low voice, the Zhongyue Pavilion sent you as a spy. It was foolish of them. Jin Hao's eyes flashed with shock. This woman actually knew his true identity. Wearing the equipment left behind by Elder Jin Yao would be an insult to him. So, it's better to let someone more suitable inherit it. With every word Empress Ling Yao said, Jin Hao's vision and hearing deteriorated. Strange attributes surged from his body and stirred his organs. You are so evil, he had just finished speaking when he completely lost his mind. Now, Jin Hao had finished filming. He had not died at the hands of Jun Changshao, but at the hands of Empress Ling Yao. Chapter 1477. Ironwood Forest. The most intense battle had ended, but the damage was irreparable. More than half of the forbidden area had been reduced to ruins. Brother! Gu Zhaoxi's voice rang out. Golden Sun Chariot. Oh? Jun Changshao noticed the golden chariot that Jin Hao had left in the ironwood forest. He grinned and said, that guy gave me another good treasure. Gu Zhaoxi said, brother, the golden sun chariot's quality is not low. It is said that its speed and performance are not inferior to the ancient warship. Is that so? Jun Changshao walked over and sent his consciousness into the chariot. There was no artifact spirit inside, but there were complicated lines that should be driven by an array. If he wanted to control this high-level Golden Sun chariot, he would have to erase the existing soul imprint and insert his own soul imprint. Boom! Boom! On the other side, there were sounds of battle. Jun Changshao put the chariot into his spatial ring and rushed over with Gu Zhaoxi. Li Qingyang's group was still fighting with the iron-armored Demon King. However, from the looks of it, they had gained the upper hand and could deal with the other party. Taking advantage of this time, Gosheng took out the Golden Sun chariot and sent his spiritual sense into it, enveloping it. Wait. Why did the soul imprint suddenly disappear? When he first looked inside, the soul imprint left by Jin Hao was clearly visible. Now, after a short while, it disappeared. This made Jun Changshao a little confused. Or did the other party know that the treasure was in his hands and simply removed it? Good guy. Jun Changshao sighed in his heart. Boom! At this moment, the iron-armored Demon King finally couldn't hold on anymore and fell in front of the group of 5 with wounds all over its body. Although the battle area was not as damaged as the other side, the ironwood forest was mostly destroyed. The most fatal damage was the soil. The ground was cracked and sunken, and the energy loss was serious. The third-class forbidden area defined by the relevant departments as a place for void-piercing realm and core transformation realm martial artists to train was destroyed. Even if it could still produce ironwood, it would be very small. Clean up the battlefield. Yes. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others put the broken ironwood and the armor pieces of the iron-armored Demon King into their space rings before leaving the ironwood forest with the Patriarch. Before he entered, this place was flourishing. After leaving, this place was plunged into misery and suffering. This was the sect of all times. As long as one entered a treasure trove, they would never return empty-handed. It's gone, the ironwood forest is gone. After Jun Changshao left with his disciples, various cultivators came over one after another. Looking at the ruined environment in front of them, a look of regret appeared on their faces. Because this was a third-class forbidden land, even high-level core revolving realm or truth-seeking realm cultivators disdained to enter. But for low-level martial artists, the destruction of the ironwood forest was the same as losing a place where they could gain experience and earn money. AI. A rogue cultivator sighed helplessly. Let's go to the nearest Fire Cloud Cliff. Fire Cloud Cliff was also a third-class forbidden area in the upper realm. From its name, one could tell that this place was definitely related to fire. Furthermore, it contained fire cloud stones that could also be used to forge equipment and weapons. Let's go. With the destruction of the ironwood forest, the various cultivators could only focus on other forbidden areas. But when they rushed over, they found that their peers were gathered at the periphery. Thus, they asked in confusion, "Why aren't you guys going in? The sect of all times sealed the mountain." What? It turned out that when everyone was rushing over, Jun Changshao brought his disciples into Fire Cloud Cliff first because it was on the way. In order to prevent any accidents from happening to outsiders, he kindly sealed the place. The rogue cultivators who made a fortune from the forbidden area expressed their gratitude to him. "Father, this place is filled with good fire-type energy. Can I absorb it without any restraint?" "Yes." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Xiaohua, who was at the bottom of the cliff, opened his mouth like a hungry beast and frantically absorbed the pure fire-type energy around him. The demonic beasts that existed in the forbidden area hid in the dark and trembled. Facing a powerful existence like the fire spirit, they would definitely become food as soon as they appeared. The fire-type energy in Fire Cloud Cliff was very strong, so the deeper they went, the higher the temperature. But under Xiaohua's frantic absorption, it started to cool down gradually. Li Qingyang and the others continued to move forward and collected various fire-type ores. 2 hours later, the isolation array at the periphery disappeared. Jun Changshao left with his disciples under everyone's watchful eyes. As soon as they left, the rogue cultivators entered Fire Cloud Cliff. When they felt that there was no fire-type energy around, they cried out in despair, this forbidden area is gone too. It's okay. We went to Water Fairy Lake. When they arrived at the scene, the clear third-class forbidden area that stretched for hundreds of miles was even more bottomless because the water was all gone. Could it be, just as everyone was guessing, they suddenly saw a familiar figure leaving in the distance. They hugged their heads and said, "It's them again." Ironwood Forest, Fire Cloud Cliff, Water Fairy Lake. In a short period of time, they were visited by Jun Changshao. In the end, their attributes, ores, and treasures were all taken away. Some of them might have preserved the landscape and environment, but their internal attributes and some elements were destroyed. It was no different from having their martial arts crippled and becoming ordinary places. The upper realm was in an uproar. The martial artists were furious. Jun Changxiao's behavior of leaving nothing alive wherever he went seriously damaged the ecological chain at the bottom. If it was not stopped, where would they go to find opportunities to earn money in the future? Judging from this guy's route, it's obvious that he wants to visit all the forbidden areas on the way to Phoenix Perch Immortal Mountain. We have to go to the next forbidden area to stop him. Therefore, many rogue cultivators organized themselves and successfully blocked Jun Changxiao and the others in front of an unnamed forbidden area. They almost pulled up a banner that read, "Protecting the environment is everyone's responsibility," to resist their endless destruction. Jun Patriarch. An old man said seriously, "Although there are dangers in forbidden areas, there are also opportunities. You keep going in and destroying them. How are we going to develop in the future?" "That's your problem, not mine," Jun Changxiao said. Forbidden areas were not public property. Since ancient times, whoever had the ability could obtain it. Now that I have the ability, why can't I mine it? Besides, the third-class forbidden areas that existed until now must be the leftovers of the major forces. Throughout the history of the upper realm, who knows how many forbidden areas with rich resources had disappeared because of excessive mining. Jun Patriarch. A middle-aged man pointed into the distance and said, "The Valley of Dead Souls a few thousand miles ahead is a second-class forbidden area. There are countless treasures in it. Can you let go of the third-class forbidden area and leave some food for us low-level martial artists?" "Yes," everyone said in a pleading tone. They did not have any objections to Jun Changxiao entering the third-class forbidden area to search for treasures. However, not even leaving the soup after eating the meat was a little too cruel. Valley of Dead Souls. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "Second-class forbidden area? Brother." Gu Zhaoxi said, "The treasures in the Valley of Dead Souls are incomparable to the third-class forbidden areas in terms of quality and quantity." "Okay." Jun Changxiao snapped his fingers and said, "Then I'll give it a try." Therefore, under the watchful eyes of the itinerant martial artists, Go Xing gave up on entering the forbidden area that did not deserve a name. Instead, he headed for the Valley of Dead Souls that was a few thousand miles away. Phew! Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. However, the Sect of all times did not even enter the Shen class in the upper realm. If they dared to enter the second-class forbidden area, wouldn't it be a little like courting death? Why should they worry about him? The main point was to prevent the third-class forbidden area from being destroyed. Regarding this, the Valley of Dead Souls expressed, "You bastards protected a trashy forbidden area but pushed me into the abyss. If anything happens to me, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." Chapter 1478. Valley of Souls. Second-class forbidden area in the upper realm. Warriors who could enter here had to be at least 6th transformation core realm or above. Otherwise, they would be sending themselves to their deaths. It was said that some of the more dangerous second-class forbidden areas might not be able to survive even if one reached the 9th transformation. It was normal to die there. "Brother," Gu Zhaoxi said, "although there are many treasures in the Valley of Souls, there are also dangers. I'm afraid something will happen if we bring this group of first transformation disciples in. If he went in alone, he would not be worried at all. However, since it was classified as a second-class forbidden area, It meant that low-level warriors could not enter at will. They won't go in. Jun Changshao said, let's go in. After obtaining a lot of resources from the third-class forbidden area, he was quite tempted by the second-class forbidden area. He hoped to obtain more resources from it. Although it was not right to destroy 3 forbidden areas one after another, Goxing still hoped to obtain more resources in the shortest time possible to strengthen the overall strength of the sect. Therefore, second-class Valley of Souls was a must. If his strength allowed, he did not mind going into the first-class forbidden area again. The system said, according to the levels set by the relevant departments, one must at least have the strength of the truth-seeking realm to survive in the first-class forbidden area. Therefore, the host should focus on the present and stop daydreaming. It's only the truth-seeking realm. Jun Changshao said, you can break through after completing 2 epic missions. Do you really think that after Sure Air's mission broke through to the 3rd transformation and Sure Air's mission broke through to the 6th transformation, the subsequent missions will continue to skip levels? The system was speechless. Jun Changshao said, as long as the completion rate is high enough, you can naturally skip levels. Previously, Sure Air's mission had skipped 3 levels in a row. It was indeed related to the 500% completion rate. If the subsequent missions could maintain this level or reach a new high, it would not be difficult for his realm to rise steadily. But the problem was whether the completion rate was high depended on the type of mission. No one could say for sure if the subsequent missions would be the same as Sure Air's, allowing disciples to complete the sect missions to crazily hit bugs. Woo woo woo. Woo 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 woo. At the entrance of a valley surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, a gust of wind blew from the inside. It sounded a bit like the wailing of ghosts. That was right. This was the second-class forbidden area that made low-level warriors tremble in fear. Because the level of danger had increased by 1 level, there were irregular weeds growing at the entrance, indicating that itinerant cultivators rarely gathered here. Brother. Not long after, Gu Zhaoxi appeared in the camera. He stopped at the entrance of the valley and said, we're here. It is indeed a little strange. Jun Changshao immediately became vigilant when he felt the evil wind blowing from inside. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others couldn't help but frown. Their intuition told them that if they went in, it would be difficult for them to come out alive. Wait outside. Yes. Jun Changshao looked at Gu Zhaoxi and said, come, let's go in. The 2 Life and Death brothers walked into Death Soul Valley under the watchful eyes of Li Qingyang and the others, fully demonstrating what it meant to not seek death would not die. He's in. The patriarch of the sect of all times has entered. Outside the valley, the itinerant cultivators who had secretly followed them saw Jun Changshao enter, and their eyes were filled with admiration. Previously, they were just casually saying that to make him let go of the nameless forbidden area. In the end, he really entered Death Soul Valley. Heroes come from the young. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. Our role model. Woo woo. Woo woo woo. In Death Soul Valley, the cold wind whistled. Just the sound alone was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi were skilled and bold. They strode in without any regard for their own family. The environment in the valley was completely different from the outside world. The most obvious difference was that everything within sight was gray. The nearby plants were either withered, as if there was no life at all. There are heavenly treasures here? Jun Changshao questioned. Gu Zhaoxi said, brother, the worse the environment, the more strange heavenly treasures will grow. For example? I'm not sure either. Didn't the storyteller tell you? That guy isn't omnipotent. Jun Changshao's interest was piqued. He asked, brother, who is this storyteller? A friend of mine. Gu Zhaoxi said, he makes a living as a storyteller in various cities. Is he very strong? Very weak. He's only seen a lot of things through his travels. Oh. Jun Changshao responded. However, he thought to himself, Can he really be an ordinary person who makes a living as a storyteller if he knows things that ordinary people don't? Do you know where he is? That guy doesn't have a fixed residence. Who knows where he is? If we meet in the future, you must introduce me to him. Sure. The two of them chatted as they walked. It didn't feel like they were trespassing into a forbidden area, but rather an outing. They didn't give any face to the second-class Death Soul Valley. Roar! After walking for about 10 minutes, Jun Changshao and Gu Xiaoxi entered a deeper area. They heard a deafening roar. Then, a pair of scarlet eyes appeared in the darkness. It was like a devil from hell. Scarlet-eyed soul beast. Gu Xiaoxi's eyes turned serious. In his understanding, this was a demonic beast that looked like a wolf. Its adult strength was comparable to a 6th transformation core realm cultivator. Moreover, it liked to live in groups. As long as it appeared, there would be at least a few dozen of them. As expected. After the first pair of scarlet eyes appeared, many more appeared in the dark environment. Roughly counting, there were at least more than 100 of them. Brother. Gu Xiaoxi frowned and said, let's take a detour. If more than 100 demonic beasts comparable to a 6th transformation core realm cultivator attacked, the impact would definitely be troublesome. Shwa! Jun Changshao took out his green dragon crescent blade and said with a burning gaze, the crystal core of a demonic beast of this level should be valuable. How can we take a detour? The corner of Gu Xiaoxi's mouth twitched slightly. This brother is even more ruthless than me when it comes to playing. If it was in the past, Jun Changshao might be afraid. However, after the appearance of the scarlet-eyed soul beast, the system issued a side mission to kill 100 of them. Thus, there was only one word for him to say, do it. Okay. Gu Xiaoxi gathered strength in his fists and said with a heroic spirit, you and I brothers, today, we will start a massacre in Death Soul Valley. The camera turned and thousands of scarlet-eyed soul beasts gathered around them. They exploded with a ferocious aura and surrounded Jun Changshao and himself. Brother. Gu Xiaoxi said with a crumbling face, we seem to be in trouble. If there were only 100 of them, he was confident that he could kill them one by one. Now that he was facing thousands of them, there was no lack of beasts comparable to a 7th transformation core realm cultivator. That was really... I was wrong. I shouldn't have come in from the start. Actually, since things had developed to this point, he could only say that he deserved it. After all, he had come here without recognizing his own family. If it was in the real world, he would definitely be tortured until his parents couldn't recognize him. Retreat. Jun Changshao said, leave this to me. Okay. Gu Xiaoxi quickly retreated. Under the encirclement of thousands of ferocious scarlet-eyed soul beasts, Jun Changshao calmly raised his hand and took out the pocket-sized hard-to-sheath blade. He smiled and said, it is time to show my true skills. Here it comes. Hard-to-sheath blade was unsealed for the first time in the upper realm. Gu Xiaoxi said with a blank expression, fruit knife. Swoosh! Jun Changshao took a step back with his right foot and bent his body slightly. His right hand was in a sword-drawing position, his thumb and index finger were on the hilt as he said, Bankai. Clang, whoosh whoosh. Violent waves of air burst out in an instant, gathering the power of a tornado. Gu Xiaoxi was pushed back several steps by the air currents. Seeing that his brother was completely engulfed by the wind, he was shocked. What is this situation? Bam! Right at this time, the wind stopped abruptly. Jun Changxiao's black cloak stood proudly in the middle of the tornado. The two words Dog God were faintly engraved on it. The pocket-sized blade in his hand had already turned into a golden threaded blade. There were 9 iron rings on it, emitting a heavy and terrifying aura. Blade, what kind of blade was that? Golden threaded ring blade. Chapter 1479. Jun Changshao was suddenly enveloped by a gust of wind, which shocked Gu Xiaoxi. The little thing in his hand that looked like a fruit knife suddenly turned into a golden ringed sword, which also shocked Gu Zhaoxi. Understood. No wonder brother was still as steady as a rock in the face of thousands of red-eyed soul beasts. He still had a trump card. Tai Mulan took out an iron rod and directly sent Jin Hao, who was at the 9th transformation Dan realm, flying. Now, he took out a heavy sword. Jun Changshao shocked Gu Zhaoxi again and again. Roar! Roar! The red-eyed soul beasts did not sense the danger. They roared at the humans with a ferocious face, carrying a nauseating stench. Today. Jun Changshao held his sword horizontally and said, "I'll use you as a sacrifice to the heavens." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The pressure that could restrain everything burst out and rushed in all directions. This is, Gu Zhaoxi was shocked, the power of space. Oh my god. This golden ringed sword could release the power of space. It was definitely a divine weapon at the celestial level. If not for the fact that he was in a battle state, Gu Zhaoxi would probably hug Jun Changshao's thigh and say, "Brother. You're my brother." Celestial equipment was the top in the upper realm. It was a divine weapon that martial artists dreamed of. Whoosh whoosh. The binding force roared and pressed down, and the space quickly distorted. Done. Gu Zhaoxi secretly said, "Brother, with this sword in hand, you can definitely do whatever you want in the upper realm." Roar! Roar! The red-eyed soul beasts finally realized the danger and let out strange roars. Then, they dragged their huge bodies and retreated into the depths. Want to run? Jun Changshao said lightly, "Can you make it?" As long as this trump card was used, it would definitely freeze whoever it stared at and become a lamb to be slaughtered. However, just as the binding force pressed down, an accident happened. Because the red-eyed soul beasts that were affected could still escape normally, completely unaffected by the power of space. Ta-ta-ta! Ta-ta-ta! Thus, the beasts sped up their escape. Wait a minute. Since the pressure is useless against us, why should we run away like idiots? Caw! A large number of scarlet-eyed spirit beasts came to a sudden stop, and then turned their heads in unison, staring at the human holding the blade, the red light in their eyes becoming more and more intense. AI. Jun Changshao sighed. "Brother." Gu Zhaoxi asked, "What happened?" Jun Changshao raised his saber, then turned his head sideways and made the pose of a landlady in kung fu. With a whoosh, he slipped away and shouted, "Brother, let's go." Gu Zhaoxi's expression stiffened. Fuck. Just describing the shock in my heart took up most of the chapter, but in the end, my brother ran away faster than a rabbit. Roar! Roar! At this moment, a large number of red-eyed soul beasts that had been scared away earlier surrounded them. Their eyes were filled with human-like anger. Obviously, they wanted to completely crush the two humans who were playing tricks. Who? All kinds of energy instantly pressed down, scaring Gu Zhaoxi into ignoring his identity and image. He stuck out his tongue like a mad dog and chased after Jun Changshao. "Brother! Wait for me!" Boom! Boom! There were frequent explosions in the Valley of Souls. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others who were outside heard it, and a disapproving expression appeared on their faces. In their view, as long as the patriarch went in, no matter how fierce the beasts were, they would become lambs waiting to be slaughtered. In fact, Jun Changshao and Gu Zhaoxi who were in the valley at this moment were like rats crossing the street. Under the crazy attack of thousands of red-eyed soul beasts, they could only escape in a sorry state, without any demeanor of an expert. The true portrayal of two fists being no match for many fists. "Brother, go out. Kill 100 of them first." Ah! Because of the side mission, even though there were more and more red-eyed soul beasts, Jun Changshao could only escape while looking for a chance to counterattack. Gu Zhaoxi's heart was crumbling, but since his brother said so, he could only do as he was told. Thus, the two put on a show of counterattack in the valley, maintaining high energy throughout the entire process. It was as if they were walking on a tightrope. Pucci. The third form of the golden threaded ring blade cut through space, directly cutting an attacking red-eyed soul beast into two. With the increase in numbers, Jun Changshao was also surrounded by dozens of red-eyed soul beasts. In the end, he was sent flying in a frenzy and crashed into the wall with a bang. He and Gu Zhaoxi had no problem fighting against these red-eyed soul beasts alone. But against thousands of them, even if they managed to injure one, they would have to pay a price. Boom! Boom! The commotion in the Valley of Souls was shocking. After contending with dozens of rank 8 red-eyed soul beasts for a while, Gu Zhaoxi was sent flying again. He shouted, "Brother, if this continues, we will be exhausted to death, let's quickly retreat." Damn it! Jun Changshao used his movement technique to dodge the attacks of several red-eyed soul beasts. Anger rose in his heart. After half an hour, they had only killed a dozen red-eyed soul beasts. If they wanted to complete the mission, they might need a few hours. If this dragged on, they would really die here. Roar! Suddenly, a loud roar shook the space and the valley. The red-eyed soul beast king that was originally in the deepest part of the valley walked out, causing its peers to raise their heads and roar. "Brother! If we don't retreat now, it will be too late." The huge demon king that appeared had strength comparable to a rank 9 reincarnation core realm. If they were targeted by it, they would definitely die. From this, it could be seen. Second-grade Forbidden Land really could not be casually entered. "You go first." Jun Changshao landed on the path back, his gaze solemn. "I'll cover you." "No." Gu Zhaoxi landed beside him and said, "I'll cover you, you go first." The current situation was very bad, but with the spirit of reincarnation, he was not afraid of death. After all, he could be reborn. However, his brother was different. If he died, he would have to sprinkle flowers. For the sake of the subsequent appearance rate, he had to ensure that he did not die. "This is my order," Jun Changshao said in a deep voice. The two of them usually called each other brother. Now, Jun Changshao wanted to exercise his rights as a patriarch. Because the other party had died for him once, how could he let his brother die for him again in this life? I, Jun Changshao, can be slandered, can be overinterpreted, but when it comes to major matters, I will never lose my way. Because, this was the principle. "Kid." Suddenly, a voice sounded in his ear, "You have touched me. Great sage." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, rolling lava seemed to appear around Jun Changshao's body and quickly condensed into a solid armor. Shwa! With a light wave of his right hand, the flames gathered into a cloak. This, witnessing his brother's lava armor and robe, Gu Zhaoxi's eyes widened. "Paw!" Jun Changshao placed one hand beside his ear and slowly separated it. The Rui Jingu Bang that was fully activated appeared, and he said coldly, "I will send you all to see Old Man Tathagata." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The brilliance was boundless, and the raging flames overflowed to the heavens. Ding! Killed 21100 Scarlet-Eyed Soul Beast. Ding! Killed 22100 Scarlet-Eyed Soul Beast. Ding! Killed 100100 Scarlet-Eyed Soul Beast. Swish! In the outside world, a ray of light appeared out of thin air, like a peacock spreading its tail. Boom 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 boom. The earth suddenly shook. Li Qingyang and the others stabilized their bodies with difficulty, and they were shocked in their hearts. What happened inside? After a while, the light that shot into the sky dissipated, and the sky returned to normal. Inside the Death Valley, the originally gloomy environment was dispelled, and rays of sunlight entered, filling the originally lifeless forbidden area with light. Put on! Gu Zhaoxi fell to the ground, and his expression was extremely wonderful. Within his field of vision, thousands of scarlet-eyed soul beasts disappeared, and the scattered crystal cores emitted a colorful light under the sunlight. Dead! With a swing of the rod, they were all dead. Gulp. Gu Zhaoxi swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty and raised his head to look at Jun Changshao, who was standing proudly in front of him, and howled in his heart, "Is he a god or an immortal, a demon or a demon?" Chapter 1480. Thousands of scarlet-eyed soul beasts were all wiped out, and even the demon king was not spared. The scene was too shocking. Gu Zhaoxi was stunned. Even someone at the peak of the core transformation realm couldn't do this. Could it be that the strength of his brother, who was wearing the battle armor and cloak, had already reached the level of the truth-seeking realm? Unbelievable. Too unbelievable. Whoosh whoosh. The lava-like battle armor dissipated, and Jun Changshao gradually returned to his original state. Seeing the crystal cores scattered all over the ground and recalling the explosive power that enveloped his body, his eyes were filled with disbelief. It was not that the special effect of the Great Sage set had not been used before, but why was it so powerful this time? It was so powerful that it was terrifying. Moreover, unlike before, after the special effect was activated, Monkey King did not appear. Instead, he transformed himself and killed all the demon beasts with thunderous means. Because the system said, "You have obtained the approval of the Great Sage." At that moment, the Great Sage was you, and you were the Great Sage. Is that so? Jun Changshao expressed his doubts. "Brother." Gu Zhaoxi got up and walked over, circling around him, and said, "You were too awesome just now. My admiration for you is like a torrential river. Stop flattering me, hurry up and pick up the crystal cores." "Okay." Gu Zhaoxi turned into a tool and collected the crystal cores scattered on the ground into his space ring. Especially when he recalled the scene from before, he was still greatly shocked. With such a powerful brother, would he be afraid of not being able to survive in the upper realm in the future? His desire to court death became stronger and stronger. "Let's go. Let's go back." After collecting the crystal cores, Jun Changshao got up and walked out of the valley. Gu Zhaoxi asked with a puzzled expression, "Brother, aren't we going deeper to look for treasures?" Since the scarlet-eyed soul beast and the scarlet-eyed soul beast king had been wiped out, there should be no danger in this second-class forbidden area. They could completely obtain resources without restraint. "I'm tired," Jun Changshao said. Gu Zhaoxi understood. Brother's attack just now must have consumed a lot of energy. Since that was the case, it was better to leave. Therefore, the two of them walked back the way they came and exited the Valley of the Lost Spirits. When Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji saw that the patriarch and martial uncle had returned safely, they heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they asked why there had been such a huge commotion just now. Jun Changshao didn't explain and took them back to the sect. "He's out. He looks fine." Just now, the earth trembled and the light soared into the sky. What was that? The martial artists who were hiding in the dark started to discuss. Because their levels were too low, they did not dare to enter the Death Soul Valley to investigate. On the way back to the sect of all times, Gu Zhaoxi vividly described how Jun Changshao killed thousands of demon beasts. Perhaps because he had a storyteller friend, his tone and expression were quite exaggerated. Oh. Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji gave flat responses. Gu Zhaoxi collapsed. Although this brother's feat just now could not be completely described with words, what he said was not too bad. Can you at least show a shocked expression? In fact, this kind of thing Jun Changshao did was simply too normal for the disciples. After all, he had killed tens of thousands of martial artists with a watermelon knife alone. "Brother, I admire you so much." On the way, Gu Zhaoxi was afraid of flattering him whenever he had the chance. Obviously, he had turned into a little fanboy. Jun Changshao was lost in thought. This time, he realized a problem. The third form of the hard-to-keep blade was no longer suitable for the current environment. Therefore, it was necessary to upgrade it with the modification stone. It's a pity that I lost a few opening talismans. Recycling Pavilion. That's true. Jun Changshao opened the recycling pavilion. At present, he still had 2/3 form opening talismans. Since the hard-to-keep blade could not keep up with the times, it was obviously more cost-effective to exchange the former for contribution points. Damn! The recycling price is only 10,000. Jun Changshao collapsed. He remembered that the second form opening talisman seemed to be the same price. It's better than nothing, right? Although very unwilling, Jun Changshao still exchanged the 2/3 form opening talismans. Ding! Sect contribution points, 220000. Transforming into a great sage and killing the scarlet-eyed soul beast, the side mission was successfully completed. The reward was 200,000 contribution points and 2 experience talismans. Then, there was no then. The system said, "Isn't it getting better slowly?" Better my ass. Jun Changshao roared, "How can 200,000 be compared to the millions lost?" On the surface, he was bickering with the system. In fact, his soul had already entered the space ring and took the modification stone. Since the third form of the hard-to-keep blade could not keep up with the times, he could only upgrade it to the fourth form. Phew! The modification stone melted. Phew! The hard-to-keep blade was upgraded to the fourth form. The upgrade process was not exaggerated at all. Quick, praise me. Because there was no fourth form opening talisman, Jun Changshao could not test its power for the time being. After being out for a long time, Jun Changshao missed every disciple and every upper echelon of the sect very much. Thus, he gave up on continuing to wreak havoc in the Forbidden Land and focused on his journey. However, a few days later, the upper realm was in an uproar again. Because one after another, high-level reincarnation core experts entered Death Soul Valley and found that the dark environment had been replaced by light. The scarlet-eyed soul beasts were all gone. Later, the relevant departments sent people to investigate. After careful comparison and analysis, they officially announced that this place would be downgraded from second class to third class Forbidden Land. Downgraded? What's going on? I heard that the scarlet-eyed soul beast is gone, so the danger level has greatly decreased. Damn, this is a good thing. For a time, a large number of void-piercing realm and initial stage reincarnation core realm rogue cultivators gathered in Death Soul Valley. The grass at the entrance had long been trampled flat. It was rare to see a second-class Forbidden Land being downgraded. Because there were many rich resources inside, the early-stage cultivators all benefited. The resources they received were even higher than the third-class Forbidden Land. Jun Patriarch is a good person. Many rogue cultivators could roughly guess that the downgrading of the Death Soul Valley was definitely related to Jun Changshao. Thus, they were filled with gratitude towards him. Although Ironwood Forest, Fire Cloud Cliff, and Water Fairy Lake were destroyed and reduced to ordinary places, a second-class Forbidden Land was downgraded to a third-class Forbidden Land. It brought many benefits to low-level cultivators, so it could be considered a gain. However, Death Soul Valley became a third-class Forbidden Land and soon brought about a bloody storm. Because the danger level was lowered, a large number of martial cultivators entered. The chances of fighting over opportunities and conflicts increased. For a long time, several groups of people would be seen fighting inside and outside the valley. Death became a common occurrence. Jun Changshao had brought opportunities to all kinds of cultivators, but he had also opened the door to hell. However, it had nothing to do with him. After all, in the cruel martial world, it was normal for people to die for wealth and birds to die for food, unless there were no more forbidden lands in the world that attracted greed. Sect of all times. Jun Changshao, Gu Zhaoxi, and the others returned. However, just as he sat in the study and was about to take a bath, Rose of Flowers walked in and said, "Half a month ago, someone sent a brocade box." Brocade box? Jun Changshao was confused. Rose of Flowers placed the exquisite box on the table. He opened it carefully and found a human head inside. Thus, he blurted out, "Golden hair." Chapter 1481. Jun Changshao was a little annoyed that Tai Mulan didn't kill Jin Hao. After all, Tai Mulan knew about Gu Zhaoxi's identity. If the Jie Hall knew about it, it would be very troublesome. However, what he didn't expect was that someone sent a brocade box with that guy's head in it. Who killed him? Why did he send it to me? Jin Hao's death didn't make Jun Changshao happy. Instead, he became vigilant because he smelled a conspiracy. Husband? Rose of Flowers asked, "Do you know this person?" Jun Changshao nodded. Friend? Enemy? Rose of Flowers was stunned and said, "The enemy's head was sent to the sect. Could the murderer be your friend?" "I'm afraid he'll be framed," Jun Changshao said. Jin Hao represented the Jie Hall. If the other party knew about this, he might think that he was the murderer and then take the opportunity to attack the sect. Who sent the brocade box? Half a month ago, Du Nan went down the mountain to clean the passage as usual and found it by accident. Half a month ago? Jun Changshao held his chin and said, according to the time, he should have just fought with Jin Hao. Could it be that this guy was killed after he escaped? Sun Bukong. He shouted, "Come and examine the body." The dead couldn't talk, but the murderer might leave some clues. Patriarch. After a serious and professional examination, Sun Bukong said firmly, the head was cut off by a sharp weapon. Jun Changshao wanted to kick him in the face. After a long examination, he gave a result that anyone could see. Had he learned medicine all these years in vain? However, Sun Bukong said again, the cause of death was not cut off, but he stopped breathing at the beginning. Go on. Sun Bukong said, the muscles on this person's face were frozen. From his expression, he seemed to be in disbelief. I guess it might be an acquaintance who committed the crime. This clue was okay. An acquaintance? Jun Changshao stroked his chin and said, could it be the Boundary Hall? He did not know much about Jin Hao. He only knew that Jin Hao worked in the Jie Hall. If it was someone he knew who committed the crime, he would have thought of this organization immediately. Hall Masterly Jun Changshao ordered, gather all the information on this person as soon as possible. The reason why Go Sheng wanted to investigate was not to investigate the case, nor was it to seek justice for Jin Hao. Instead, it was to determine who the murderer was and what the sect of all times was up to. Dragon's Pine Peak. After taking a shower, Yi Xingqian wiped his hair with a towel and hummed a tune as he walked into the room. Night Emperor had changed. She actually hummed secretly when no one was around. As soon as he entered the room, Yi Xingqian's expression became sluggish because there was an exquisite brocade box on the tea table. Where did this box come from? He walked over and casually opened it. Swish! In an instant, a golden light flashed from the inside, illuminating the entire room. It was so bright that Anyo almost couldn't open his eyes. Jun Changshao sat in the study, still thinking about the issue of Jin Hao's severed head. Rose of Flowers sat beside him and was also thinking. The two of them had the same expression when they were silent. They were becoming more and more like a family. Husband, are you worried that the murderer sent the severed head to frame the sect of all times? That's right. If that's the case, why put it in the box? Wouldn't it be fine to just throw the corpse at the foot of the mountain? In Rose of Flowers' opinion, if the murderer really wanted to frame them, sending the severed head secretly was unnecessary. Moreover, half a month had passed since then. If there was a conspiracy, the Jie Hall would have acted long ago. Yes. Jun Changshao was puzzled. It's very strange. Rose of Flowers said, in my opinion, the murderer didn't send the enemy's severed head to frame us, but, Patriarch. Suddenly, Li Qingyang's voice came from Dragon's Pine Peak. Come and see. Jun Changshao hurriedly released his thoughts and found that Yi Xingqian's room was flashing with golden light. He hurriedly flew over and broke the door open. He saw a brocade box on the tea table with a golden armor inside. "This is," Gu Zhaoxi, who had rushed over, was stunned. "Golden glory armor." Jun Changshao frowned. He was familiar with this item. It was the armor worn by Jin Hao. But why would it appear in the disciples' room? The brocade box containing the severed head was exactly the same. "Ah no, what's going on?" Yi Xingqian was dumbfounded. Even before Jun Changshao asked, he was still guessing. Could it be that the patriarch had given him equipment because of his recent good performance? It should be the same person who sent the severed head. Rows of Flowers made this judgment based on the design and workmanship of the brocade box. This sentence made Jun Changshao frown even more. Because this meant that someone could bypass the great protective array and enter. "Husband." Rows of Flowers said, "First, they sent the enemy's severed head, and then they sent an extraordinary armor. It seems to confirm my guess just now. The other party did not frame us." "That may not be so." Jun Changshao said cautiously, "The golden glory armor belongs to Golden Hair. Now that it has been sent along with the severed head, doesn't it prove that the Sect of all times is the murderer?" "That's true." Rows of Flowers fell into deep thought. Jin Hao's severed head and armor appeared in the Sect of all times. This made Jun Changshao irritated, because he was worried that they would deliberately frame him and be targeted by the Jie Hall. Moreover, the great protective array that he trusted so much actually did not work. In fact, the Jie Hall had been quite depressed recently, because there was no news of Jin Hao, who was in charge of hunting down Gu Zhaoxi. It was as if he had disappeared from the face of the earth. Everyone. On a certain day, Empress Lingyao walked in from outside and said, "There's something I need to report." "What is it?" A few of the higher-ups said calmly. Although this woman held a position in the Jie Hall, she was not liked by the big shots. Empress Lingyao said, "According to the investigation, the demon king of the demonic fog forest suddenly unsealed was secretly done by Jin Hao." "What?" A few of the higher-ups were surprised. They had heard of the demonic fog forest incident, but because it was taken down by the Sect of all times, they did not investigate in detail. "Not long ago," Empress Lingyao continued, "the demon king of the ironwood forest unsealed was also done by this person." The few elders fell silent, anger flashing in their eyes. Many third-class forbidden grounds had demon kings sealed, and the people who sealed them were from the Jie Hall. Their purpose was to provide a safer place for low-level martial artists to train. In the end, one of their own had been unsealed consecutively. Wasn't that breaking the law knowingly? Empress Lingyao said, "When Jin Hao unsealed the array that sealed the Demon King, the patriarch of the Sect of all times and his disciples were training there. Obviously, he wants to kill with a borrowed knife." The higher-ups fell silent. Jin Hao had been injured by Jun Changshao for 2 years to recuperate. Did he break the law knowingly out of spite? If the world knew that the Demon King of the Forbidden Grounds was released by the Jie Hall, what would they think? If the patriarch of the Sect of all times was in danger, would Senior Tonggu just sit by and do nothing? Empress Lingyao said. The higher-ups frowned. Has Jin Hao's brain been kicked by a donkey? How dare he undo the Demon King's seal without permission? Hurry up and summon him back. He must be punished severely. There's been no news of this kid. Could it be that he knew he was exposed and ran away in advance? Empress Lingyao added, "The way I see it, Jin Hao is not only targeting Jun Changshao, but also pitting the Jie Hall against Senior Tonggu." Jun Changshao couldn't be sure if someone was trying to frame him, but from the looks of it, the golden retriever had been framed. It could be said that he was dead and had to take the blame. Chapter 1482. The Drizzle Court began to investigate Jin Hao thoroughly. However, information about this person was harder to find than Empress Lingyao. After half a month, they still could not find any valuable clues. Readers with God's perspective knew that Jin Hao was actually a spy. Such a person must have kept a tight lid on the information on the surface. Otherwise, he would have been found out by the Jie Hall. Patriarch. Li Luoqiu said helplessly, still no news. Ever since she came to the upper realm, although she worked hard to develop intelligence, she did not feel like a fish in water in the falling star continent because of the different environment. There were too many restrictions. No rush. Jun Changshao said, investigate slowly. It had been a month since the brocade box was sent, but the Jie Hall had not made any moves. This made him waver, wondering if the person who sent Jin Hao's head was trying to frame him or had other intentions. He could not figure it out and was confused. Phew! Jun Changshao stood up and went to the back of the mountain. There were unusual changes here because there were a few more scenic spots. Some were planted with iron trees, and some were formed by lakes. Although Go Sheng had destroyed a few third-class forbidden areas, he had moved all the specialties inside to the Sect of all times, especially the water from the Water Fairy Lake, which had the effect of strengthening meridians and muscles, whitening and beautifying. It could be drunk all year round. I can't rely too much on the martial arts facilities in the mall. If I lack anything, I can find it in the upper realm and enrich the cultivation environment of the disciples, Jun Changshao said to himself. The next day, Li Luoqiu sent a piece of information. The Jie Hall had sent Empress Lingyao and Jin Hao to hunt down Gu Zhaoxi. Jun Changshao fell into a short silence when he heard about it. One of his biggest problems was dead, but there was still another. He had to be careful. Moreover, that woman had captured Gu Zhaoxi before but let him go. In the end, she even let him enter the Sect of all times. There must be an ulterior motive. Sigh. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples and said, I prefer enemies who fight fair and square. I don't like enemies who scheme and scheme. Patriarch. Yi Xingqian walked into the main hall. Wearing the gold glorious battle armor, this guy looked extraordinarily valiant. At first, Jun Changshao wanted to wear it himself, but he remembered that he still had the Great Sage set, so he gave it to Anyo. Now that he wore it, it matched his temperament quite well. How do you feel? Not bad. Yi Xingqian's eyes flashed with fighting spirit. The special effect of his text could activate the unparalleled armor, but it was limited by his level, and it was certainly not as tough as the gold glorious armor in terms of hardness. Here. Jun Changshao waved his hand and tossed the glorious gold holy spear over. This weapon is yours. Thank you, Patriarch. After Yi Xingqian received it, the battle intent in his eyes became even more intense. He wanted nothing more than to fly out of the palace and stab a hole in the sky. That woman seems to have some kind of plan. You have to cultivate diligently as well, Jun Changshao said. The fighting spirit in Yi Xingqian's eyes turned into killing intent. That woman. Obviously, he was referring to Empress Lingyao. Anyo came to the upper realm with only one mission, and that was to kill her with his own hands to avenge the assassination that year. Yi Xingqian said, Patriarch, I'm going to cultivate now. Improve and become stronger. This was the most important thing to do now. Go. Jun Changshao waved and said, Clan Leader Li, keep an eye on the realm hall and see if there's any movement. Yes. Li Luoqiu left and began to make arrangements. However, another month passed peacefully, and the news they received was that the realm hall did not make any follow-up moves. That's strange. Jun Changshao was puzzled. Rose of Flowers said, there's only one possibility if there's no movement after he's been dead for so long. The realm hall doesn't know that Jin Hao was killed. So the person who sent the severed head didn't deliberately frame us? Could it be that they're telling us that we're on the same side, or are they deliberately trying to be friendly? I hope so. Jun Changshao hoped that the other party was trying to be friendly, or at least there wouldn't be any conspiracy. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, laughter came from outside the hall, and an old Taishan man walked in excitedly. Your wife is going to give birth? Jun Changshao asked. Get lost. The old Taishan man rolled his eyes at him, unable to suppress his excitement, and said, "Under my unremitting efforts, Bamboo Mountain #1 has finally made substantial progress." "Is that so?" Jun Changxiao's interest was immediately piqued. Formation Hall, Martial Arts Arena. Jun Changxiao, rows of flowers, and other higher-ups arrived one after another. The old Taishan man stood proudly in the center area with his head held high. After seeing that they had all arrived, he took out Bamboo Mountain #1. During this time, he, Elder Zhen, and Shengwan Xinyao had been studying formations and mechs. After countless experiments, they finally found the best way to save energy and reduce emissions. "There aren't any changes." Jun Changxiao observed carefully for a while and realized that Bamboo Mountain #1 was similar to before. The only difference was that the formations on it were more complicated and mysterious. "Don't be anxious." The old Taishan man smiled and said, "I'll let you broaden your horizons later." "Lass, activate it." N. Shengwan Xinyao walked over, jumped onto Bamboo Mountain #1, and entered the cockpit. After some simple calibration, she placed her hands on the formations on both sides of the formation. Buzz buzz. The lines on the bamboo armor were activated in an instant, flashing with a bright luster. Caw caw caw. Caw 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 caw. Bamboo Mountain #1, which looked like it was made of rotten wood, suddenly came to life. Then, under the control of Shengwan Xinyao, it cupped its fists. "Kid," the old Taishan man said proudly, "find a rank 1 to spar with." "This thing can fight against a rank 1. Jun Changxiao was a little surprised, but he still called his second disciple over. "Junior sister." Li Qingyang walked to the training field, cupped his fists, and said, "Please." "Who?" Suddenly, Bamboo Mountain #1 rushed over while sticking close to the ground. Its clumsy huge fist carried a cold wind. Boom! Li Qingyang crossed his hands to receive it, but because the force was too strong, he took a few steps back before he managed to stabilize himself. His eyes were filled with surprise. This, Ding Xingwang and the rest were dumbfounded. This strange thing made of bamboo and formations did not release a strong aura, and one could not see its realm, but it could actually send a genuine rank 1 reincarnation realm retreating with one punch. Amazing! Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. In his memory, when Bamboo Mountain #1 first appeared, it only sent hundreds of middle and upper void-piercing realms flying. Now, it could actually fight against a rank 1 reincarnation realm. This modification was really groundbreaking. "Junior sister," Li Qingyang said, "I'm going to get serious." Swoosh! After saying that, he rushed over with a mysterious footwork. The power gathered in his fist was also increasing. However, just as he made his move, Bamboo Mountain #1 flew up with a whoosh. The bamboo armor in front of its chest opened, and dozens of light beams shot out in midair. Boom boom boom. Boom 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 boom. The light beams were formed by an offensive formation. Its power was really impressive, and it instantly blasted the training field into an unbearable sight. Although Li Qingyang dodged, when he saw the tragic state of the training field, he immediately clutched his chest and half-squatted on the ground as if he had lost the ability to fight. In this battle, Shengwan Xinyao directly KO'd second senior brother. The reason was that the training field suffered a blow to the opponent's spirit. Chapter 1483. Due to the destruction of the training field, Li Qingyang was not in the mood to fight, so this informal sparring session ended with Shengwan Xinyao's victory. After a short exchange, the improved Bamboo Mountain #1 not only displayed strong combat power, but it could also fly, which deeply shocked Ding Xingwang and the rest. It was just a pile of bamboo wood, did it have to be so awesome? Moreover, the one controlling the bamboo armor was Shengwan Xinyao. This woman was very strong in the research of martial arts and formations, but her martial arts cultivation was ordinary. Now that she could use Bamboo Mountain number 1 to spar with a revolving core cultivator, it refreshed everyone's understanding of martial arts. "Kid," the Taishian elder said proudly, "how is it? How's the control on energy consumption?" There was no doubt that Bamboo Mountain number 1 was an epic-making product in the martial arts world, but its biggest weakness was that it consumed a lot of fuel. It was simply burning money in the process of using it. If we use magnetite as the unit of energy and maintain the combat power just now, the consumption for an hour is about 10,000, the Taishian elder said. Jun Changshao was speechless. 10,000 for 1, 100,000 for 10, 100,000 for 100,000. If he wanted to popularize this in the sect and equip everyone with a revolving core mech, he would not be able to afford it. The system said, to equip every disciple with a Gundam, this idea is a bit hardcore. What else? The sect of all times had only been in the upper realm for a few years. Even if they used cheats, it would be difficult for them to surpass thousands of years of power, so Jun Changshao could only take an unconventional approach. If Bamboo Mountain number 1 could be mass-produced, even if its strength was only at the first transition level, it could still bring about a qualitative change to the sect. After all, 100,000 disciples, 100,000 for 100,000. Just thinking about it was beautiful. The system complained, without achieving the void-piercing realm for the entire sect, you want to achieve the revolving core realm for the entire sect. Aren't you afraid that if you take too big a step, you'll end up with something? Can you still reduce the energy consumption? Yes. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. But the Taishian elder said, low energy consumption will reduce the combat power. Because it involved the core technology of the mech, research on Bamboo Mountain number 1 was not revealed. In short, having the combat power of a first transition was already the best plan with their current strength. Low energy consumption. Yes. High energy consumption. Yes. But the price was either sacrificing combat power or magnetite consumption. Alright. Jun Changshao accepted that the Bamboo Mountain No. 1 possessed the strength of a first transition and that it would consume 10,000 magnetite per second. He asked, can it be mass-produced? How much? 100,000 units. The Taishian old man almost fell over. Jin Dejuan broke down and said, Patriarch, there are tens of thousands of formations on Bamboo Mountain number 1. Just improving them took us more than 2 years. Scientific research, of course it takes time. Jun Changshao said, however, if we master the core technology, we should be able to mass-produce it. It's easy for you to say that. The Taishian elder rolled his eyes at him and said, let's not talk about whether we can make 100,000 units. We can't even supply the materials. Speaking of materials, Jun Changshao thought of something and asked, Shizhuan, can ironwood be used to make mecha? Not only that, but the effect should be very good, the Taishian elder said. It just so happens that I brought back quite a lot from my previous trip. How much is quite a lot? Go to the back of the mountain and see for yourself. The Taishian elder went to the back of the mountain with doubts. When he saw the trees that were as hard as iron, the corner of his mouth twitched and said, could it be that this kid brought back the ironwood forest? How many Bamboo Mountain number 1 can be made from these ironwood? About 500 units. Then I'll have to trouble Shizhuan to make them as soon as possible. At least 5 years. No way. Only 50 units a year. Modeling, assembling, outlining the formation, all of these take time. It's not a big problem. Shizhuan can go to the space-time secret realm. The Taishian elder was arranged to work. However, when he returned to the formation hall, he counted with his fingers and said, 500 units for 5 years, 50 units a year? The next day, the formation hall began to get busy. Jun Changshao took out the mecha paper that he sketched overnight and said, Shizhuan, can you make it like this? The Taishian elder's Bamboo Mountain number 1 was too low class. He planned to make some changes to its appearance. At least it would look very intimidating at first glance. Gosheng's design had a Gundam flavor, but the overall structure was different. Especially with the dragon on the left and the clouds on the right, it fully displayed the Chinese culture. No! The Taishan elders said, it's too ugly. This design could not be said to be ugly. It was mainly the combination of ancient style and technology that made it difficult for an old-fashioned person like him to accept. This matter does not need to be discussed. Listen to me. Jun Changshao said seriously. Although the Taishan elder was unwilling, he still went to the casting hall and placed the fancy design on the table. He said, Hall Master Fan, the parts of Bamboo Mountain No. 1 will be handed to your casting hall. You can even outsource. No problem. Fan Yezi was idle, so he took a large number of ironwood from the back of the mountain and began to make according to the specifications on the design. It had to be said that he, who was proficient in casting, was also a top master carpenter. The parts he made were all the same size and shape. He was like a walking engraving machine. The parts of Bamboo Mountain No. 1 were easy to make. The difficult part was the formation after assembly because every detail had to be perfect. Otherwise, a small accident would cause all the previous efforts to be wasted. The members of the formation hall were lined up neatly in the space-time secret realm. They held engraving pens and engraved lines on the parts, just like workers working overtime on an assembly line. When Jun Changshao came to inspect, he could not help but sigh, it would be even better if there were mass-produced machines. Use the shop. The system said. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes. He only had 200,000 contribution points, which made him a little nervous. Under the time acceleration, 10 Bamboo Mountain No. 1s were made in just a few days. Because the material was ironwood, it was pitch black. Because of the change in style, it looked very intimidating. Master. Jun Changshao said, the name is too old-fashioned. Why don't we change it? Change what? Diablo 2. Dark, the color of the mech. Diablo represented power and destruction. As for the word 2, it was an improved version of the second generation. Jun Changshao had never thought that he had a talent for naming things, so he gave himself a thumbs up in his heart. Old man Taishan had intended to refuse, but Lin Fan was the sect master, and he had to listen to him. Old man Taishan was speechless and could only compromise. Diablo it is then. At this point, Bamboo Mountain No. 1 was officially renamed to Diablo. Whether there would be a third or fourth generation would depend on whether the formation hall continued to improve. We have absolute core technology and intellectual property rights. Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, when the second generation mech is about to be obsolete, we can sell it and really benefit the people. The system was speechless. When the upper realm martial artists go out to greet them, the style will change from fantasy to science fiction. Chapter 1484. The production of the Diablo mecha was in full swing. The disciples weren't slacking off either. As usual, they were cultivating and doing sect missions. Who should I give these mechas to? Jun Changshao started to consider. Li Qingyang and the other core disciples were all at the first transition. It would be useless to give them the mechas. Hence, he had to choose someone else. Patriarch Xueran Gui said, my battle cavalry hall needs these mechas. Humph, the Purple King said indifferently, does my spirit beast hall not need them? Hall Master Z. Xueran Gui was speechless. Are you planning to let the demonic beasts operate such high-tech equipment? Why? The Purple King stood up and said, are you looking down on the beasts? As the two hall masters of the sect of all times, they had to fight for something good. After all, there were too few Diablo mechas. If they didn't fight for them, there wouldn't be any left. I'm not looking down on you. Xueran Gui said, our battle cavalry hall is obviously more suitable. Bullshit. The Purple King said, my spirit beast hall members have been cultivating for years. Their intelligence isn't any worse than your battle cavalry hall. Hall Master Z, you dropped your money. There. Z lowered his head and searched for a long time. After confirming that there was no money, he said angrily, "You cheated me. Patriarch." Shui Rengui cupped his hands and said, "With your intelligence, I can guarantee that the mechas given to the Spirit Beast Hall will be useless in a few days." The Purple King was ready to take off his clothes and fight. His intelligence might not be able to keep up, but his strength could still beat the other party. Jun Changshao took a sip of tea and said indifferently, "How about this, each of you will have 5 mechas. Whoever can operate the mechas better will have them." Since both halls wanted the mechas, he could only prove it with his ability. "Sure." Shui Rengui and the Purple King said in unison. On the same day, both halls received 5 Diablo second-generation mechas each. The Array Hall also sent professionals to guide them on how to use the internal arrays to activate, attack, defend, and fly. War Cavalry Hall. Zhongyi listened carefully and got into the cockpit. He placed his hands on the array and successfully activated it. "Hall Master." He smiled and said, "It's simple." It was very easy for the War Cavalry Hall, but it was a nightmare for the Spirit Beast Hall. The Purple King, Elder Nyo, and the others were taking notes on their notebooks. They scratched their ears and cheeks and said, "Say it again. I didn't hear it clearly." The disciple who was sent to explain the situation was depressed. "I've repeated my words countless times. It's not that you didn't hear it clearly, it's that you didn't understand it at all." They were good at playing with strength. They really couldn't compete with intelligence. This was especially true for a mecha like this, which required one to be proficient in controlling the various driving devices. It's too hard. After learning for a day, the members of the Spirit Beast Hall decided to give up completely. In the end, they handed over the 5 Diablo machines to the War Cavalry Hall and squatted on the mountain peak, watching the others fight and fly around. Their eyes were filled with envy and hatred. Shh. In a gloomy mountain forest, dozens of martial artists were walking quickly. From their movement techniques and the distance they maintained, it was obvious that they had received professional training. "Boss." After a short while, the martial artist at the front stopped and said, "This should be the gathering place of the Spirit Fire Wolves." A middle-aged man with a 28 hairstyle smiled and said, "Once we get rid of them all, we can earn a huge sum of money again." This person's strength was at the upper level of the void-piercing realm. The 20 to 30 subordinates around him were also at the lower or middle level. They belonged to an organization similar to a mercenary group and earned martial arts resources by hunting all year round. Awo! At this moment, wolf howls came from the depths of the mountain forest. "Boss, we've been discovered," that subordinate said. "Brothers." The middle-aged leader took out his weapon and said excitedly, "Let's prepare for a big fight." Clang, clang, clang. His subordinates took out their weapons of various shapes and colors. Their strength gradually gathered, and their eyes flashed with intense battle intent. Awo! The wolf howls were getting closer. Ta. After a short while, fiery demonic beasts emerged from the depths of the mountain forest. The number gradually increased from more than 10 to more than 100. "Boss, there are too many of them." The dozens of subordinates were originally quite excited, but when they saw that the number of spirit fire wolves had reached more than 100 and was still rising, they were instantly stunned. "Damn it!" The middle-aged leader shouted, "Retreat!" With their strength, dealing with dozens of them was no problem, but facing so many of them, they would definitely be eaten until not even their bones were left. Swoosh! Swoosh! In an instant, dozens of martial artists fled toward the periphery of the mountain forest. After running for a short while, they saw 3 young men in black robes walking over while talking and laughing. Fuck! Didn't they hear such a huge commotion inside? "Senior brother, are they running away? They look so funny. Isn't it just a group of spirit fire wolves?" Hearing them talking about him, The middle-aged leader was so angry that he almost vomited blood. However, he sneered in his heart. Since you guys dared to come in, you can buy us some time. Brothers! Run toward them. Yes! Swoosh! 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 Everyone ran over, obviously planning to lure the spirit fire wolves in front of them to buy time for themselves to escape. Huff, huff. Huff, huff, huff. Dozens of martial artists went around the three black-robed martial artists who were talking and laughing. When they brushed past each other, they didn't forget to say in their hearts, idiots. Senior brother, the spirit fire wolves are coming for us. When a group of itinerant martial artists ran past them, the ferocious spirit fire wolves that were charging over locked their gazes on them. Then we'll finish them all off. When the leader heard that, he almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. You guys look like void-piercing realm martial artists. If you can finish off more than 100 spirit fire wolves, I'll do a handstand. Boss, look! At that moment, his subordinate interrupted his thoughts, so he hurriedly released his spiritual perception to look. He saw the three young men taking off their black robes in unison, revealing strange clothes. The word ancient was engraved on their chests, and the waist tag with War Cavalry Hall was hung on their waists. Sect of all times? They're from the Sect of all times. While everyone was exclaiming, the three young men waved their hands, and three Diablo appeared in front of them. Then, they jumped into the cockpit, calibrated the various instruments, and placed their hands on the array drive. Hum! The eyes of the mecha, which looked like a pile of iron blocks, flashed red. Then, they raised their hands and took out the sharp swords on their backs, putting on a super battle stance. What's this? The middle-aged leader and his subordinates were all dumbfounded. It didn't matter what it was. What was important was that when the members of the Sect of all times activated the mecha, a cruel massacre immediately took place. Huff! Huff! The swords flashed, and the wind blew. Poochie! Poochie! In an instant, blood bloomed in the light and broken limbs flew in the wind. Clang! After a while, the three Diablos slowly sheathed the huge swords engraved with the word fan on their backs. They stood proudly in three areas, surrounded by the corpses of the spirit fire wolves and the fire element crystal cores scattered all over the ground. The middle-aged leader's legs trembled as he sat down, and he screamed in his heart, "Who can tell me what kind of monster is this?" Swoosh! The three Sect of all times disciples jumped out of the cockpit and skillfully cleaned the battlefield. The crystal cores, skin, and bones were all taken away. Just as they were done, someone received a voice transmission and said, "A junior brother is in trouble while doing a Sect mission. He wants us to go and help him quickly. Let's go." The three of them jumped into the cockpit again and activated the flight program. The two aircraft-like things on the back of the mecha opened up, and then they shot into the sky. The middle-aged leader who saw this forced a smile on his face. Huh. I must have seen a ghost. The martial artists near the ancient immortal mountain were all going crazy. This was because when they were training outside, they often saw the Sect of all times disciples driving strange black things in the forest or in the sky. The most frightening thing was, when they attacked, their strength was comparable to a first transformation core realm cultivator. In a certain forbidden area that didn't deserve a name, all the itinerant martial artists stood outside with faces of despair. Why didn't they go in? It was because a few minutes ago, 10 Sect of all times disciples entered the forbidden area with their black monsters. It was over. Something was going to happen in this forbidden area. Chapter 1485. The appearance of the Diablo could allow low-level disciples to instantly possess the strength of a transformation core realm. However, this could not be just for show. Jun Changshao needed to turn them into helpers so that they could play a role in various aspects, such as completing Sect missions or going to the Forbidden Lands to obtain resources. The effect was not bad. In just a few days, with the intervention of the mechs, the disciples' efficiency in completing missions was significantly faster than before. They also obtained a lot of treasures. If they were to be converted, the profit was obviously more than the consumption of magnetite. Moreover, the branch of the ancient elixir pharmacy was still operating. The rate of obtaining magnetite was very high and it could withstand the consumption. Comfortable. Jun Changshao, who was sitting in the study, sipped his tea happily. The industry was gradually on the right track. Second-generation mechs were gradually allocated to the disciples. In the future, the speed and means of obtaining martial arts resources would be more abundant. However, Gosheng felt that it was a pity that the disciples' advancement in the realm was a little slow. This was slow. It was holistic. In fact, in the past 3 years, with the assistance of various new equipment, the disciples of the sect of all times had improved quite quickly. After all, most of them were at the level of half-Saint Wu Huang when they came up. Any faster and they would really be ascending to the heavens. Jun Changshao felt that it was slow because of the limitations of the main mission and the fact that the sect was not in the upper realm. Although the new version of the system could rely on contribution points or achievement points to forcefully upgrade the sect's level, whether one was strong or not required the recognition of the world. In the past, when the certification hall first appeared, readers complained that whether one was strong or not needed the recognition of others. Rubbish author, brainless setting. Now that there was no such organization in the upper realm, the problem became whether one was strong or not. One really needed the recognition of others because even if they changed the data and wrote that they were supreme immortal sects, others would not be able to tell and the main mission would not recognize it. Moreover, the certification hall could at least provide a numerical reference. After passing the assessment, it would be announced to the public, and the world would naturally have an intuitive understanding. On the other hand, although Jun Changshao had been flying around recently, no one thought that the sect of all times had the strength of a Xian-ranked sect. Right. Jun Changshao slapped his forehead and said, "In the future, I can bring my disciples to challenge Xian-ranked sects." Without an authoritative organization to certify the sect's rank, Gosheng planned to rely on his own strength to do so. If he couldn't beat one, then he would beat 2 or 3 until he was recognized. If the Xian sects knew about this, they would definitely beg the relevant departments to quickly open a separate certification hall for him. They would provide full service 24 hours a day. This way, our lives would be better in the future. The Formation Hall continued to create Diablo, and the War Cavalry Hall continued to assist the disciples in completing their missions. The sect of all times entered a relatively stable period. It was rare for Jun Changshao to focus his mind on cultivation. Occasionally, he would refresh the free shop 5 times at the end of the month. In the end, he didn't buy anything good. He firmly believed that if he didn't become a VIP, he wouldn't get anything good. Outside. Due to the appearance of Diablo one after another, news of it spread throughout the southeast region. Martial artists from all walks of life rushed to see it and wondered what kind of technology it was. The Taishian elder and his 2 assistants, Zhen Dejuan and Shengguan Xinyao, were constantly improving the mecha. Later, they came up with a completely new design, adding 3 modes of energy conservation, balance, and performance, thus greatly increasing the mecha's practicality. In the energy conservation mode, the mecha would enter a low-power state, and its combat power would be maintained at the upper level of the void-piercing realm. In the balance mode, the combat power and energy consumption would be maintained at a relatively average level. In the performance mode, the mecha would enter a high-power state, and its combat power would be greatly increased. The downside was that its energy consumption would increase sharply. This is not bad. Jun Changshao gave his approval. In fact, the War Cavalry Hall members had feedback recently. When they were doing some missions, due to the high performance, it was difficult to not activate it, and it was a waste of magnetite to activate it. Therefore, the situation was a bit awkward. Now that they could freely switch between the 3 modes, it was naturally easier to make a choice. Master, Jun Changshao said, if the technology is mature, You can add a berserk mode to instantly increase the combat power to the extreme, allowing the disciples to turn the tables in desperate situations. If you do that, it will easily destroy the internal structure of the formation and completely turn it into scrap metal, the Taishan elder said. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, if a person is about to die, why would they care about the mecha? The Taishan elder immediately understood. This was to let him add a limit-breaking setting to the Diablo as a final trump card. If the user was faced with a desperate situation, at least they could give it a try instead of sitting in the cockpit and waiting for death. I'll improve it in the future. Also, can we use the formation to locate the mecha? Jun Changshao needed to control the position of each mecha so that he could provide timely support when there was trouble. It's not a big problem, the Taishan elder said. The interior of the Diablo was full of complex formations. With some tracking methods, it was still possible to teleport to the sect in real time. The major sects in the upper realm were thinking of ways to improve their own strength, but the sect of all times was thinking of ways to improve the performance of the mecha. The styles of the two were completely different. Half a year later, Yi Xingchen, Li Qingyang, and the others had broken through to the second transformation, and their strength had greatly improved. The improvement of the ordinary disciples was also more significant. The overall strength of the entire sect had reached the lower level of the void-piercing realm, and had been completely upgraded to a martial emperor. Every month, they could enter the space-time arcane realm. The formation hall used this method to produce 100 Diablo, and the efficiency was twice as fast as what the Taishan elder had estimated. Of course. Although the model was still the second generation, it had added many functions, especially the berserk mode that Jun Changshao had suggested. This was a red button covered by layers of small formations. It could only be activated after the user had authenticated it, and it burned all the energy in an instant to mobilize all the power. Boom! In the martial arts arena, Xiao Ziji formed a solid defensive barrier in front of him, blocking the mecha's full-force attack. His expression was solemn. Ka ka ka. Ka 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 ka. After the attack, the Diablo's body shook violently. Swoosh! Shengwan Xinyao stopped operating and jumped out of the cockpit, saying anxiously, "Get out of the way, it's going to explode." Boom! Light flashed in the martial arts arena, forming a small mushroom cloud. Fuck! Su Xiaoma, who had dodged in advance, widened his eyes. Li Qingyang clutched his chest, feeling pain in his heart. After all, the martial arts arena would definitely be destroyed after such a big explosion. He would have to ask the Patriarch for money to repair it. No! He would try to test it outside in the future. Cough cough. Xiao Ziji walked out of the dusty area with his clothes in tatters. Obviously, his defense was broken in the explosion just now. He had broken through the second transition and was the #1 meat shield among the disciples of the sect, but he was still in such a sorry state. It was obvious that the berserk mode of the Diablo was tough. Sigh. Taishan elder shook his head and said, "It's more extreme than I thought." He expected that the berserk mode of the Diablo would cause irreparable damage to the mecha, formations, and other aspects, but he did not expect the mecha to explode after the first use. Not bad. Jun Changshao said with satisfaction, "Not only does it have an extra trump card in a desperate situation, but it can also be used as a bomb." Everyone's mouth twitched slightly. The Patriarch had placed a lot of importance on the Diablo during this period. Of course. It could allow the user to have the strength of the first transition instantly. This mecha would definitely be of great use in the future, at least. Ding. Epic level mission triggered. It's here. It's finally here. During this half a year, the disciples had been cultivating, but Jun Changshao had not been idle either. Although he had crushed 2 experienced talismans during this period, he had mostly relied on himself and the endless supply of magnetite to forcefully increase his strength. Finally, he had reached the upper limit of the 6th transition and triggered the epic level mission. Swoosh! It opened and the content was Upper Realm version epic level mission, For mission details, the strength of a sect depends on the amount of resources. Please be sure to obtain the large-scale real stone mine that will appear in the Jade Tripod Mountains in half a year. Mission reward: large-scale real stone mine. Jun Changxiao's eyes twinkled. Fuck. The system complained helplessly, this epic-level mission is full of spoilers again. Chapter 1486. The epic mission was here, and it was full of spoilers. Time, half a year later. Location, Jade Tripod Mountains. Reason, real stone mine birth. Scale, large. That was all the content of the spoiler, which made Jun Changxiao excited. Currently, after working with the Alchemy Hall, their businesses were expanding, and they had a stable income from magnetite. They were not short of money. However, magnetite was the most common currency in the upper realm. Above that, there was the true Tao Immortal Stone, which was a stronger cultivation resource. I was just worried that the disciples would level up slowly. Jun Changxiao rubbed his hands. If we can get a large real stone mine, the overall strength of the sect will definitely rise to another level. It was decided. He would head to the Jade Tripod Mountains as soon as possible. Why did he have to be fast? Because it would only appear half a year later, which meant that no one should know about it yet. If he rushed there and confirmed the location, he could dig it out in advance and not leave anything behind. Jun Changxiao did not need to be a genius to know that once such a large mine was known to the world, it would definitely attract the attention of all the major forces. When he went there, he could only be a spectator. After all, he was not strong enough. Spectator? Definitely not, he had to fight for it. Therefore, the best way was to take advantage of the epic mission spoilers and go there first. By the time others went in, he would already be in the sect enjoying his bath. However, there was a problem. Where was the Jade Tripod Mountains? Jun Changxiao hurriedly took out the map of the upper realm. After a careful search, he found that it was in the northwest region. He hugged his head. This is too far. His home was in the southeast, and it was in the northwest. If he rushed there at normal speed, the place would have been dug out long ago. It's not a big problem. Jun Changxiao thought to himself. I can use the ancient warship. Magnetite could not be compared to real stones. For this, Go Sheng would definitely burn like crazy. It was fate. He had to gamble, he had to risk it. Wait. Jun Changxiao suddenly remembered something. Empress Lingyao's Lingyao Wonderland seems to be in the northwest region as well. Very good, very good. Who knows, he might have a chance to do something. Jun Changxiao wouldn't be so foolish as to clash head-on with Empress Lingyao now, but if the circumstances allowed, he would definitely play some tricks to annoy her. The principle of Shameless Dog was that if you tried to play tricks on me, I would definitely use the same method in return, even if it didn't hurt or itch. What is this? That's right, what a despicable person. Martial arts practice field. Li Qingyang and the other core disciples who were cultivating stood in a row. They were all wondering why the patriarch had gathered everyone here. Could it be that he had something important to tell them? Gu Zhaoxi and the black and white Rakshasa had also arrived. Ta! After a while, Jun Changxiao walked out of the main hall and said loudly, "Follow me to the Jade Tripod Mountain Range in the northwest." Jade Tripod Mountain Range? Surprise appeared in Gu Zhaoxi's eyes. He had heard of this place before. It was a mountain range that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. Because there weren't any heavenly materials or rare beasts inside, most cultivators didn't even bother to enter. Patriarch. Bai Luocha asked, "Why are we going there?" To train in the sect. Everyone broke down. If they were going to train, they should go to the Forbidden Grounds. Why did they have to go all the way to the northwest? Although that was what everyone thought, since the patriarch had said so, they had to obey unconditionally. So they all took out their rainbow wings and prepared to set off. No need to trouble yourself. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the ancient warship. Get on. Gu Zhaoxi's mouth twitched. The warship that Jinren Tonggu had created was very powerful, but it also consumed a lot of energy. To use it as a means of transportation just for training in the sect, this was probably, brother. He walked over and said in a low voice, if you think you have too much money to spend, you can give it to me. Don't talk nonsense. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, hurry up and get in the car. Okay. Lu Qianxian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the other core disciples were heading to the Jade Tripod Mountains. There were also the Black and White Rakshas, the Purple King, Ding Xingwang, and the other core disciples, as well as the 100 members of the War Cavalry Hall who were equipped with Diablo. The sect's elites were all out. They were determined to get the mine. Husband. Before they set off, Rose of Flowers asked, can I go? If you go, who will manage the sect? Hall leader Wei and the others. They sent so many elites. It's definitely not as simple as training. Let me go with you, Rose of Flowers said telepathically. Okay. Jun Changshao compromised. At the moment, he could not be sure if only he knew about the birth of the mine. If he encountered any problems, bringing along an assistant would at least be an extra layer of protection. Although Go Sheng was very resistant to the combination and his hair turned green, it was undeniable that with Rose of Flowers' assistance, his combat strength increased significantly. Let's go. Whoosh! The ancient warship turned into a stream of light and flew out of the Aeon Immortal Mountain. I'm so tired. I'm going to sleep for a while. Cultivate. The upper echelons and disciples returned to the cabin for various reasons. Only Jun Changshao and Rose of Flowers were left in the cockpit. His eyesight was amazing. Husband. Rose of Flowers stood at the window and looked at the scenery passing by. She smiled and said, this seems to be our first time taking the ancient warship to play in the upper realm. Jun Changshao was speechless. We're not going to play. We're going to do business. What business? Can you tell me? Whoosh! Jun Changshao took out a large number of magnetite and pointed at the driving device behind. He said, replace it when the energy is insufficient. We must maintain the endurance. The host is very particular about using his wife as a tool, the system said. Scram! Jun Changshao put all his attention on the journey. Occasionally, he would look back at the magnetite consumption in the driving device. His face immediately showed signs of pain. The northwest was very far. However, as long as he dared to invest, he could reach it very quickly. Husband, the magnetite is gone. It had only been a few hours, but the large amount of profound stones that Jun Changshao had taken out earlier had been used up. He could only endure the pain and continue to replenish them. He consoled himself in his heart, if I can obtain a true stone vein, then everything will be worth it. So beautiful. The next day, the ancient warship passed by a sea of flowers. Rose of Flowers stood at the window, her eyes shining with joy. She liked flowers. She especially liked roses. Childish. Jun Changshao said coldly. Then, he stopped the ship and said, out of the way. I'm changing the energy source. Didn't you just change it? Change it again. Seeing her husband walking over with a sour face, Rose of Flowers couldn't help but laugh. She said, did you deliberately stop the ship because you want me to look at the scenery? Why are you asking if you know? Hurry up and look. Won't it delay business? You're so long-winded. If you don't look, I'm going to start the ship. Husband has planted roses all over the courtyard. I'm already tired of looking at them. Let's do business first. Whoosh! The ancient warship started again and flew away without looking back. Chapter 1487. The northwest region was larger than the southeast region. Moreover, there were endless mountains and grasslands that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was a collection of different landforms. 10 days later, Jun Changshao arrived. It would take at least a few years to travel normally. Even with a flying treasure, it would still take a few months. Therefore, he was almost flying. Of course. The consequence of pursuing speed was burning magnetite crazily. The warship stopped on a boundless grassland. Jun Changshao clutched his chest, feeling the fragrance of the grass and soil. His heart was bleeding, because the price he had paid was too great, so great that he couldn't even calculate it. Sigh. Gu Zhaoxi said helplessly, "What a pity." He didn't know how many magnetite he had spent, but he estimated it to be at least tens of millions. It might even exceed 100 million. Therefore, he couldn't understand his brother's intentions. Did he really have too much money and nowhere to spend it? "Give it to me." "I don't think it's too much, it's too little." Rows of Flowers took out a map and judged based on the environment. "We're still a few hundred kilometers away from our destination." Jun Changshao suppressed the pain caused by the crazy consumption of magnetite and said, "I can still bear it." Gosheng definitely didn't care about a few hundred kilometers since he had rushed over such a long distance. Therefore, he adjusted his state of mind and controlled the warship to fly toward the Jade Tripod mountain range. Along the way, he released his spiritual sense and found that although there were martial practitioners nearby, they were scattered. This meant that no one knew about the appearance of the ore vein. Otherwise, all the major forces would have gathered together. A smile gradually appeared on Jun Changshao's face. As long as he found the ore vein, not only could he obtain a large amount of resources for the sect, he could also complete the epic mission. It was killing two birds with one stone. Jade Tripod Mountain Range. A place that couldn't be any more ordinary. Although the scenery here was as beautiful as a painting, because of the weak nature, there weren't any natural treasures. Even ordinary demon beasts couldn't be bothered to come here. Jun Changshao flew over on the ancient warship and looked around. He couldn't help but wonder, "There's an ore vein here." Rows of Flowers asked, "What ore vein?" "An ore vein." Since he accidentally blurted it out, Jun Changshao could only be honest. After all, she wasn't an outsider. "Don't misunderstand." The system explained, "This is not an outsider, but a member of the same sect." Rows of Flowers suddenly understood. "No wonder my husband brought so many people here. It turns out that he was looking for real stone veins." Shwa! Shwa! The upper echelons and disciples jumped off the ship one after another, and then found themselves in the mountain range. "Brother." Gu Zhaoxi broke down and said, "There isn't even a decent demonic beast here. How are we supposed to train?" He still couldn't figure out why he wanted the Jade Tripod mountain range. Since they had arrived at the mission location, Jun Changshao naturally didn't have to hide it, so he took the initiative to tell the reason. "What?" Gu Zhaoxi's eyes widened at first, then he looked around with an expression of disbelief and said, "There's a real stone vein in this godforsaken place." The appearance of mineral veins was a common occurrence. However, most of them were in places with strong attributes. This place was abnormally thin, so how could there be a large mine here? "Brother," Gu Zhaoxi asked, "where did you get the news? Could it be a rumor?" "Impossible." Jun Changshao's tone was very firm. The system's mission spoilers were often very accurate, so he believed that there must be a real stone vein here. What if there wasn't? Then there was no need to ask. He would just strangle himself and walk away. This time, he had spent countless magnetite to come all the way to the Jade Tripod mountain range. If there was a mistake in the epic mission and a fake spoiler was given, with Gosheng's stingy personality, he would definitely fight with his life. "Where is it?" Gu Zhaoxi asked. "Search." Jun Changshao said, "Carpet search." The mission only revealed the location of the spoiler, but the Jade Tripod mountain range was too big, so it definitely needed to be searched one by one to determine where it was hidden. Would a treasure detector work? No. Because things like spirit stones and magnetite were not classified as heavenly treasures, nor were they in the category of weapons and equipment, so they couldn't be detected. Ren Shan. Jun Changshao walked over and said in a meaningful tone, "It's time to use your talent." Many readers might have forgotten about this person. This was normal. After all, there were 100,000 disciples. If they all had 2 words in their names, just listing them would take 100 chapters. However, Go Sheng remembered clearly. Because in the lower realm, Ren Shan had discovered more than one vein. He was indeed the sect's lucky charm. This time, Jun Changshao thought of him first when looking for veins. Ren Shan expressed that he had a heavy responsibility and felt a little guilty. Tell me loudly, do you have the confidence to find veins? I have confidence. Move. Yes. The disciples received the order and began to search. Although there was no danger in the Jade Tripod Mountain range, because of the tangled and complicated environment, it was indeed a little difficult to find. Moreover, without any clues, they could only search in silence. The difficulty factor was undoubtedly higher. Remember. Jun Changshao shouted, as long as you work hard, you can grind an iron rod into a needle. Only when the clouds parted can you see the moon. Motivational words were very beautiful, but in fact, the search work was handed over to the higher-ups and disciples. He sat on a huge rock and drank tea leisurely. From time to time, he would put on his earphones and listen to pop songs. How do we find it? The surrounding heaven and earth attributes are thin. There are no clues at all. We can't possibly dig 3 feet into the ground, right? The disciples turned the area upside down for several days in a radius of hundreds of miles. They did not find anything at all. They even felt like a retard looking for a needle in the sea. What was more frustrating was, as they searched, it started to rain. Although it did not rain on them, the ground became muddy. It would definitely be more difficult to find. Page. Li Qingyang, who was walking at the front, asked, "Haven't you found it?" No. Paige shook her head. As a well-known tool of the sect of all times and an earth element beast, she had searched for a long time in the Jade Tripod Mountain range but still did not find any veins in the ground. Oh no. At this moment, someone shouted, "Junior brother Ren slipped down." Whoosh! 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 Li Qingyang and the others hurried back and found that there were obvious scratches on a slope, which meant that Ren Shan had accidentally fallen down when passing by. Patriarch! Suddenly, there was a sharp shout from below, "Found something!" Whoosh! Jun Changshao instantly disappeared from the huge rock. The earphones were placed beside him. Because of the rain, they first sizzled and then emitted flames and white smoke. It meant that they were not waterproof and died. The place where Ren Shan fell was a long slope. There was a winding river below, but there was an open space in the middle that could accommodate 2 or 3 people. Whoosh! Jun Changshao flew over and asked, "What did you find?" Ren Shan pointed at the traces of sliding down. The surface of the soil showed stones with complicated lines on them. Jun Changshao approached and narrowed his eyes. "Array?" "That's right." Zhen Dejuan carefully studied the patterns on the stones and said, "It is indeed an array." Gu Zhaoxi held his chin and said, "How can there be an array in this godforsaken place? And why didn't we notice it at all?" "There is a mystery." Black and White Rakshasa said in unison. "I say." Jun Changshao interrupted their thoughts and said, "This small place can only accommodate 2 or 3 people. Don't you feel crowded?" "It's not crowded." "Nonsense, you're almost riding on my neck." Although he was complaining, Jun Changshao still put his hand on the stone pattern and said, "Try touching it." Buzz! When his finger touched it, a light flashed. Rumble! In an instant, a hole suddenly appeared in front of the area where everyone was crowded. Extremely pure heaven and earth attributes emerged from inside. Mineral vein. Gu Xiaoxi rode on Jun Changxiao's neck and said excitedly, "There must be a mineral vein inside." Chapter 1488. Accidental landslide, found the mechanism of the formation. Ren Shan, the Koi, once again played his role and told the world what it meant to be deliberately arranged by the heavens. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Not only was there a strong heaven and earth attribute at the entrance of the cave, but there was also the aura of a formation. I understand now. Zhen Dejuan said in realization, the pattern just now was to activate the formation mechanism, so I didn't feel the aura of the formation at first. It's not important. Jun Changxiao said, what's important is that we've struck it rich. He judged from the heaven and earth attribute that there were definitely resources of a higher grade than magnetite inside. The epic mission didn't lie to him. There really was a true stone vein in the Jade Tripod Mountain range, and no one knew about it. Let's go. Jun Changxiao immediately threw Gu Xiaoxi off and walked into the dark tunnel. The upper echelons and disciples followed behind. After a while, they reached the end and entered a relatively spacious natural cave. There was a stone bed and a stone platform inside, which meant that someone had lived here before. Jun Changxiao stopped in front of the stone table and touched the dust on it with his finger, saying, it should have been abandoned for a long time. Patriarch. Zhen Dejuan said, the aura of the formation is stronger. Jun Changxiao nodded and said, if we didn't find the mechanism by accident, who would have thought that there was another world below? It was all thanks to Ren Shan that they could come here. Because the formation around them was of an extremely high level, the aura of the formation couldn't be felt from outside at all. If it continued to operate, it wouldn't be discovered by others. Could it be a cave abode where a mighty figure lives in seclusion? Bai Luocha said. Gu Xiaoxi was speechless, building a cave abode in a mine, this is too creative. Jun Changxiao came to a stone platform that looked like a bookshelf and waved his hand to remove the dust. He found ancient books on it and said happily, cultivation techniques and martial arts. He was disappointed. It wasn't martial arts, but a diary. Jun Changxiao flipped through it and learned that the owner of the cave abode was an itinerant cultivator who was proficient in formations. He found this large true stone vein by chance and lived here until he died. Then, how did he find it? According to the diary, when he was young, he once entered a mine with the woman he loved, but an accident happened. Not only did he lose his legs, but the woman also died, so he suffered a heavy blow. Whose fault was it? It was the fault of the person who discovered the mine. Because without the other party, he wouldn't have come. That's a little extreme. Jun Changxiao shook his head. Of course, the reason for the tragedy was the mineral vein, but in the end, it was still because he was dominated by greed. Jun Changxiao continued reading. He was even more certain that this rogue cultivator was extreme because the contents of the diary were filled with hatred. In the end, it even developed into hatred for the entire world. I want revenge. I need to formulate a big plan. These two sentences appeared frequently on every page of the diary. Judging from the handwriting, the author must have gritted his teeth when he wrote them. I lost my true love because of the mine, so I will use the mine to take revenge. Later, the itinerant cultivator worked hard to overcome his crippled legs and turned from a formation enthusiast to a mineral vein exploration enthusiast. His hard work paid off, and he found a large true stone mine in the Jade Tripod Mountain range. The mine is huge. There are at least billions of true stones stored. When Jun Changxiao saw this paragraph, he first placed the diary on the stone table. Then, he covered his chest with one hand and breathed heavily. No. I'm a little short of oxygen, billions of true stones. This was an astronomical figure. Not to mention Go Sheng, any other martial artist would not be able to withstand it. Calm down, calm down. Jun Changshao adjusted his state of mind and continued reading the diary. His expression gradually froze because it was written very clearly in the diary. The itinerant cultivator sealed the mine with a formation and stopped the time of its birth. His purpose was to create all kinds of traps inside and turn the opportunity into hell on earth. Damn! This guy is really crazy. He could understand the pain of the itinerant cultivator losing his true love, but he couldn't destroy the world because of this, right? Host, you don't understand. The system said, this is the magic of love. When a person falls too deeply, they will really do very irrational and even crazy things. For example, one day, the person you love deeply, damn. With his constitution of being destined to be a loner, there was no way he could establish such a thing. TSK Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, it's as if you understand. Although I'm a pile of data, if I had a body and a human mind, I would definitely be stronger than you in terms of feelings. The system corrected him. Oh, no, it's that every person is stronger than the host. Scram! Jun Changshao scolded and continued reading the diary until he reached the last page. He learned that the formation around the mine could only be suppressed until a certain year, month, and day. At that time, it would stop working and the true stone mine would be born. This coincided with the time of the epic level mission. The system said, the mine should have been born 100 years ago, but it has been suppressed by human intervention. On the day of its release, it will definitely cause an even more intense phenomenon. So, Jun Changshao said, it will attract even more martial artists to be buried with him. Sigh. The system said, why bother? Shwa. The camera flashed and Jun Changshao put on a white coat, combed his hair back, put on a pair of sunglasses and said, as a righteous person, how can I let such a tragedy happen, so? He paused and said, I will take all the true stones here and strangle the disaster in the cradle. Clap clap clap. Clap clap clap. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others applauded, although they did not know why they did so. Through the diary, it was confirmed that the cave was left behind by a loose cultivator who gradually became filled with hatred for the world because of the death of his true love. His goal was simple, to use his mastery of formations to change the mine into hell. Although the idea seemed a bit crazy, it successfully grasped the weakness of human greed. Half a year later, it would cause an intense phenomenon, which would inevitably attract moths. You want the mine? You must fight first. Then, you will be welcomed by the formation after you enter. Unfortunately, he did not expect that the epic mission would spoil the birth of a mine in the Jade Cauldron Mountains to Jun Changshao, and that he would enter the cave in advance with the help of Koi Rin Shan. If the dead loose cultivator could come back to life, he would definitely climb out of his coffin and roar, I report this person is cheating. Elder Zhen. Jun Changshao said, the cave should be the center of the formation. Can you break it and control it? Zhen Dijuan shook his head and said, it's a bit difficult. That loose cultivator spent 100 years to set up countless formations, waiting to show them to the world half a year later. With his strength, it was impossible to break it in time. However, Grand Elder should be able to do it. Jun Changshao said, if I knew, I would have brought Master here. He had no choice but to summon the ancient warship and burn calories all the way back to the sect. He brought the Taishian Elder to the Jade Cauldron Mountains, spending a large amount of mystical stones back and forth. He was so heartbroken that tears flowed out. TSK. The Taishian Elder stood in the cave and observed carefully. He exclaimed, the person who set up the formation is an expert. Master, can you break it? I need some time. How long? About a day. Jun Changshao, Zhen Dijuan, and the others collapsed. You broke a complex formation system that was created 100 years ago in a day. Is that guy worthy of the evaluation of an expert? Yes, he is. Because as a technical geek, the Taishian Elder's attainments in formations were quite high. The fact that he needed a day to break it was enough to show that it was very difficult. Under normal circumstances, it would be broken in seconds, minutes, and time. Master, hurry up. Don't be anxious, don't be anxious. The Taishan elder closed his eyes and began to break it. After studying it for a while, he frowned and said, "The formation system has a self-destruct program. If someone touches the ore, it will explode directly. This is very vicious." Chapter 1489. With the presence of the Taishan elder, the formation system in the cave was useless because he had obtained absolute control in just one day. It's worth it. Jun Changshao felt a little better. They had burned so many magnetite to invite him here. If they did not break the formation, it would be a huge loss. "I've shut down the internal explosive device. You can go in without worries," said the Taishan elder. "Let's go." Jun Changshao immediately led the group to the tunnel on the left side of the cave. Whoosh whoosh. Purer heaven and earth attributes blew over. It was obvious that there was a very majestic mineral vein inside. "We're going to be rich." Jun Changshao's eyes shone. When the entire upper realm did not know about it, it would definitely be a great feeling to secretly find a real stone mine. Since the formation system was completely controlled by the Taishan elder, all the traps along the way were all in a state of failure. Therefore, they did not encounter any danger along the way. They were not looking for resources. They were out for a stroll. 1 step. 2 steps. After passing through the long tunnel, the group stopped in a slightly damp environment. They were surrounded by mud, and crystal-clear ores were embedded in it. It felt like they were hugging a pipa and covering half of their faces. "Brother," Gu Zhaoxi said happily, "real stones." These high-level martial arts resources were similar in form and size to magnetite, but the energy gathered inside was purer. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others saw real stones for the first time. Especially when they were densely packed in their field of vision, each of them widened their eyes. It would be great to use them for cultivation. Gu Zhaoxi took out the small shovel that he carried with him and said seriously, "Real stones that have not been excavated are very fragile, so you must be careful when you dig. Otherwise, the energy will be lost if the surface is broken." Although he was labeled as a traitor by the Realm Hall, he was also a rogue cultivator. Therefore, after being reborn dozens of times, he definitely knew the life skills of mining. "Brother, let's dig quickly." When he looked back, he saw Jun Changshao sitting on a chair, holding a cup of tea in his hand and sipping it carefully. This was too leisurely and elegant. "My dear brother, we came all the way here to mine, not to have a vacation." Gu Zhaoxi was on the verge of breaking down. "I have sinned." "Yes." Boom. Xiao Ziji took out a heavy machine from his spatial ring and placed it on the ground. From its shape, it looked like a container. "What is this?" Gu Zhaoxi was stunned. "Uncle Master." Xiao Ziji said, "This is an ore harvester. It's specially used for mining." Gu Zhaoxi was even more confused. "Let's begin," Jun Changshao said indifferently. "Paw!" Xiao Ziji pressed the start button. "Caw caw caw." The hatch slowly opened, and something that looked like a small robot quickly flew out. It then leaned against the wall and began to dig with its hands and feet. In a short period of time, the 1,000 true stones on the surface were all plucked off and placed neatly to the side, forming a small mound. This, Gu Zhaoxi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Those strange little things were very agile, and they were especially professional when it came to mining. It gave him the feeling that he could dig them out with just a little fiddle. "Brother, how's the efficiency of my ore harvester?" "Awesome. Too awesome." Gu Zhaoxi developed a strong admiration for Jun Changshao. He directly hugged his thigh and said affectionately, "From today onwards, the mountains have no edges, and the heaven and earth are united. Only then will I dare to separate myself from you." Scram! Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The small mining robots worked hard to dig. One by one, the true stones were piled up nearby, and Jun Changshao easily stored them into his spatial ring. The system said, according to the analysis, the energy and purity stored in the true stones are 10 times higher than magnetite. Jun Changshao's hand that was holding the teacup trembled. If that was the case, one true stone was equivalent to 10 magnetite. The diary recorded that there were billions, so wouldn't that be equivalent to tens of billions? Covering his face. Leaning back tactically. His smile gradually became perverted. There were no other forces, no danger, and a large true stone mine was equivalent to free. How could Jun Changshao not be excited? How could he not be? If not for the fact that his disciples were nearby, he might have started singing long ago. With the ore harvester, the mining process was needless to say. In just 2 short days, a large true stone mine was emptied. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Jun Changshao's unbridled laughter came from the empty mine. The diary said that there were billions of true stones in storage, but after they were emptied, after careful counting, the actual amount had reached 10 billion. Multiplying it by 10, it was equivalent to 100 billion magnetite. This was not Zimbabwe currency. This was true stone. Not good. The patriarch has fainted. Jun Changshao lay on the chair. He was so excited that he went into shock, but there was still a smile on his face. He even had a dream. In the dream, he was swimming in an endless sea of true stones. In his excitement, he hugged a large true stone and kissed it. Shwa! Suddenly, he woke up from the dream. Jun Changshao smelled the scent of roses. Only then did he suddenly realize that he was hugging the rose of flowers. Her cheeks turned red, and a stunned expression gradually appeared on her face. He kissed me. Shwa! Shwa! Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others all turned around, as if to say, we didn't see anything just now. Amazing, my patriarch. Su Xiaomo thought to herself, how dare he act so boldly in public. As someone who had rich experience in relationships, he could say mushy words to Xia Shuiyan. He could say sentimental words, but he would never be so blatant in front of others. What did I just do? Jun Changshao howled in his heart. The system said, you kissed your wife. No. I was kissing a true stone. That's not important. What's important is that everyone saw it. The system added. Although Jun Changshao's heart was crumbling, it was not the time to be conflicted. Thus, he hurriedly pretended that nothing had happened and said sanctimoniously, let's go back to the sect. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi said, we can't leave yet. Why? Jun Changshao asked. Gu Zhaoxi said seriously, true stone veins usually only exist in environments with strong heaven and earth attributes. Since there's one in this godforsaken place, there must be a reason. That's right. The black and white Rakshasa expressed their agreement. A true stone vein was actually hidden in a remote and desolate place where even demonic beasts were too lazy to come. It was really illogical. What's the reason? Jun Changshao asked. Gu Zhaoxi held his chin and said, the formation of true stones has environmental factors, but there's also another factor, and that is. He paused, then said, the mother of true stones. The mother of true stones. The system said, the source of true stones. I understand. You don't need to explain. Although Jun Changshao had never heard of it, he could roughly understand it from the name. Thus, his eyes lit up, and said, could it be that the mother of true stones is hidden in this vein? Gu Zhaoxi shook his head and said, it's just a guess. Patriarch. At this moment, the Koiran Shan's loud shout came from the depths of the vein, come and see. Chapter 1490. After digging out all the true stones, Ren Shan felt a little urgent, so he went to the deepest part to relieve himself. However, just as he touched the wall, a stream of light with even more explosive heaven and earth attributes appeared. Damn! What is this? Patriarch, come and take a look. Jun Changshao heard the news and came over. Strands of visible attributes seeped out from the soil, and his eyes lit up instantly. Gu Zhaoxi said happily, brother, it should be the mother of true stones. Dig! Jun Changshao ordered. The disciples took out small shovels and dug along the area filled with heaven and earth attributes, quickly forming a man-made tunnel from top to bottom. After digging for about a kilometer, the source of heaven and earth attributes was found. It was a large stone buried deep underground, surrounded by streams of light. It could be said to be gorgeous. That's right. This was the mother of true stones. It was naturally its credit to nurture a large mineral vein in a desolate place. Brother, Gu Zhaoxi said excitedly, this time, we're really rich. The mother of true stones contained very powerful heaven and earth attributes, which could be seen from its appearance. However, its real use was not to absorb but to nurture more true stones, so it could reproduce continuously. Its value could not be measured by money. Can you move it away? Yes. Jun Changshao put the heavy mother of true stones into his spatial ring without hesitation, then covered his face and said, happiness came too suddenly, 10 billion resources. A source of reproduction. Coming to the Jade Tripod Mountain Range was really a great harvest. Inside the cave, Jun Changshao returned with a full load and took away all the diary entries, making sure not to leave any clues. The true stones were all dug out, but the accumulated attributes over the years did not dissipate. Once the formation lost its effect, it would definitely cause a strong phenomenon and attract the major forces. If they knew that he was the one who took it, it would definitely cause unnecessary trouble. The host is very cautious, the system said. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes and said, before I have the absolute strength to go against the whole world, I naturally have to be cautious. Go against the whole world, you will hear no one. Right. Suddenly, Jun Changshao had an idea, so his eyes lit up and he said, I can do something about the mineral vein. What article? The Jade Tripod Mountains belong to the northwest region, and Empress Lingyao happens to live here as well. When the mine appears, will the major factions come looking for her? Go Sheng was preparing to make arrangements for that woman. However, how to make the various factions believe that the true stone mine had been dug out by Empress Lingyao would require a good plan. What if she happened to be there when the load appeared? The array formation in the cave abode could only last for half a year, but Jun Changshao had already mastered it. He could dispel it at any time to trigger a supernatural phenomenon. If he could lure Empress Lingyao over and release the array formation in advance, it would be very interesting. However, how could he lure it over? Brother, Jun Changshao asked, is there any way to contact that woman? Gu Zhaoxi shook his head. I can't contact him. He had an agreement with Empress Lingyao, but it was only an agreement. They had not left any means of contact. Actually, the system said, host, you don't have to attract her here. You can just send the trouble over. Send it over? Jun Changshao was stunned. What do you mean? Can't you just move the empty load and the array formation away and place them near the Lingyao immortal realm? The system had changed. It began to wallow in the mire with the host and become a doghead strategist. This, Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. Good idea. The true stone mine was right at your doorstep. If there was nothing after entering, what would the various factions think? What would Jie Tang think? However, how could he move it? If it was an item, he could just keep it in his space ring. But this mine was too big. He couldn't just move it away. After all, it was too ostentatious. Although the Tianyuan prison pagoda had the function of storing things, the space inside was limited. Otherwise, the entire Iron Bone Mountain would have been sent in. The system said, if you have any questions, look for the store. Fuck. Jun Changshao said in his heart, no wonder you're so proactive in coming up with ideas. Gou Xing didn't open the store. Instead, he asked, Master, is there any way to move this mine somewhere else without anyone noticing? The Taishan elder said, the true stone is gone. Why move it? Is it possible? Yes. Jun Changshao was overjoyed. The system broke down. Everyone in this damn sect is a talent. Why does the store feel like it's going to be laid off? Indeed. Although the mine was an epic mission spoiler, there were ancient warships rushing over, Koiran Shan searching, and Taishan elder breaking the array. Overall, it was more dependent on the sect. The ore excavator had put in a lot of effort, but it was just icing on the cake. Because the disciples could also dig it clean. At most, it would take some time. If it was in the past, Jun Changshao would have been in a good mood. Now that he was faced with a thorny problem, at least someone would be able to step up in time. In fact, this situation was already a little obvious when he was buying the property. When he was developing in the lower realm, Gou Xing relied on the pills and beast pills from the pill pavilion to amass wealth. Although the path he was taking now was similar, he no longer relied on the system. Instead, he hired the alchemists from the pill hall to make money. Some might say, isn't it all thanks to the nourishing earth? Yes. For now, the treasures cultivated by the system were very important. However, when the alchemy shops gradually blossomed in the upper realm and formed a brand effect, they could still make a lot of profits even if they sold ordinary pills. Jun Changshao was working hard to systematize. He also hoped that in the future, he could still develop stably for a long time without relying on the store, tools, and so on. Then, he shouted righteously, Jun Changshao, am not in a good mood. He tue. The reader's saliva sprayed all over the screen. It was the kind that could not be wiped off. The way to move the mine was very simple. They just had to set up a formation in a fixed area that would not be noticed by others, and then move it away openly. Therefore, the old man Taishan started to get busy. He put up formation flags in various areas. When the formation was completely connected, the entire mine was completely covered. It even seemed to have been cut into a huge square. Up! Zhongyi, who was controlling the Diablo, shouted loudly. Rumble! In an instant, the 100 mechs inside the formation exerted force at the same time. They directly lifted the empty mine and slowly flew it into the air. Because of the existence of the high-level isolation formation, even if a large area of soil was peeled out, it would not be seen. Reader, damn, I thought that we sent so many mechs to prepare to fight with the major forces to show the power of the sect of all times. In the end, they were only used to move the mine. However, the mine was moved away, and the original terrain caved in. Jun Changshao would definitely not leave any clues that would expose him. He immediately ordered Page to fill in the soil and quickly fill in the missing area. Let's go. To the Lingyao Wonderland. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. From the reader's perspective, a mine covered with an isolation formation slowly left the Jade Tripod Mountains under the escort of 100 mechs. It started a life of wandering, so it was also called a wandering mine. Chapter 1491. In the northwest region, many people had never seen Empress Lingyao before because she was too elusive. But if it was the Lingyao Wonderland, even a 3 or 5-year-old child would be able to show the way. Because this independent space had a special teleportation portal, it was very symbolic. Jun Changshao took the mine and wandered. A few days later, they appeared on the green grassland. From afar, there was a vortex between the sky and the earth, and a heavy aura spread out, making people feel awe. Brother, Gu Zhaoxi said, this is the Lingyao Wonderland. Ha! Jun Changshao said lightly, it's quite grand. Although the entrance to the Wonderland was open to the world, there was a restriction inside, and outsiders could not enter at all. Because it was Empress Ling Yao's territory, no one dared to set foot in the grassland. Don't worry. Jun Changshao sneered. It's going to be very lively here soon. Majestic attributes of heaven and earth gathered in the mine. If it was completely released, at least half of the upper realm would be involved. When that time came, all the powerhouses and forces would come, and the scene would be as beautiful as a painting. If everyone suspected Empress Ling Yao and put her in a terrible situation, it would be even better. He he he. Jun Changshao let out a strange laugh that only villains would have, and his handsome face gradually changed. Kid. At that moment, the old man from Taishan said solemnly, "There's a formation around the vortex. We can't get too close to avoid being discovered." Jun Changshao looked around and said, "Let's put the mine here." They were already in the territory, and distance was meaningless. However, they had to be careful when they put it, because it could easily cause a commotion. "Master," Jun Changshao said, "continue to expand the isolation formation." The old man from Taishan waved his hands, and the formation flag turned into a stream of light and flew out, and then inserted into the grassland. Whoosh! Page landed, and its head instantly enlarged, and began to gnaw on the grass. The mineral vein needed to be buried deep in order to be realistic. Therefore, after about 2 hours, it had eaten out a very, very deep pit. "Put it down," Jun Changshao ordered. Hundreds of mecha slowly descended and placed the heavy ore vein in the pit. After they filled the pit with soil again, it was as if nothing had happened. "Master," Jun Changshao asked, "is it possible to set the array to be lifted after 1 month?" Since he had already arranged for Empress Ling Yao, he naturally hoped to see results sooner rather than wait for half a year. Yes. Taishan immediately changed the principle of the array system and set it to be automatically deactivated after 30 days. Okay. Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, "Return to the sect." After all, this was Empress Ling Yao's territory, and the longer he stayed here, the easier it would be for him to be discovered. Thus, it was best to get out of here as soon as possible. Swish! The ancient warship began to move, transforming into a streak of light that shot off into the distance. When they came, Goshing's heart ached for the magnetite. Now that he had so many real stones, he definitely didn't care. He even happily sat in the driver's seat and hummed a little tune. Rows of Flowers smiled. "That's a good hum." Jun Changshao had a natural weakness when it came to singing, but he was fine when it came to humming. At least it wouldn't cause too much damage. Jun Changshao had been in a good mood, but when he saw this woman walk over, he suddenly remembered what he had done at the ore vein. His entire face burned. "Why is your face red?" Rows of Flowers asked. Jun Changshao hurriedly turned his head away and said proudly, "Who's blushing?" Rows of Flowers smiled and took a step closer, whispering, "In the future, don't do this in front of the disciples. I'll be embarrassed." Jun Changshao roared, "This is a misunderstanding. You clearly have me in your heart. Why can't you be honest?" Rows of Flowers leaned closer, then turned her face and smiled. "Come, give me another kiss." "Fuck." Jun Changshao pushed her away with a straight face and left the driver's seat, leaving behind one sentence. "Crazy." Whoosh! The ancient warship returned the way it had come. However, it stopped when it reached the Sea of Flowers. "Master," Jun Changshao said, "the scenery here isn't bad, right?" The Taishan elder said, "Not bad." "Then I'll have to trouble you to set up another formation and bring the entire Sea of Flowers back to the Sect of all times," Jun Changshao said. "Ha!" The Taishan elder was dumbfounded. He could understand bringing the ore vein to frame Empress Ling Yao, but bringing the Sea of Flowers back to the Sect of all times was a little strange. "Grand Elder," Su Xiaoma transmitted, "the Patriarch's wife likes flowers." "So that's why." The Taishan elder immediately understood, and said in his mind, his wife likes flowers, so he gave her a sea of flowers. This kid is really something. Buzz! The formation covered a radius of dozens of kilometers. Rumble. 100 mechas worked together to lift the sea of flowers and the soil into the air, and then marched back to the Sect of all times. When we get back, we'll put it on Dragon Head Peak. That way, you'll be able to see as much as you want. Jun Changshao said indifferently, of course. What I mean is, next time you go out, don't act like you've never seen the world before. System, thank you. Rose of Flowers smiled sweetly, and her heart was filled with sweetness. She liked roses, so he planted roses everywhere. She liked a sea of flowers, so he brought back a sea of flowers. Rose of Flowers walked over and hugged Jun Changshao from behind. She pressed her face against his broad back and said softly, with a husband like this, what more could I ask for? It was a pity that Li Tian wasn't here, or this beautiful scene would definitely be preserved in pictures. Brother. Suddenly, Gu Zhaoxi walked in. Seeing Rose of Flowers hugging Jun Changshao, he hurriedly changed his words. What are you doing? The system broke down. Every time the relationship between the two of you rises, this guy will appear. Is he being bribed by some people who don't want to eat dog food? He's here to cause trouble. As expected. The originally beautiful atmosphere dissipated with Gu Zhaoxi's arrival. Jun Changshao even pushed Rose of Flowers away and put on a dignified look. What's the matter? No. Nothing, I won't disturb you. Gu Zhaoxi immediately slipped away. He left, but the atmosphere couldn't be cultivated. The two of them even stood in the cockpit awkwardly. I know you don't want to open your heart to accept me. Rose of Flowers flipped a strand of hair on her forehead and smiled. So I won't ask for too much. I'll always be with your strong sect. He was a companion, not an assistant. So it had a different meaning. Only in front of Jun Changshao would she look like a little woman. Once she entered work mode, she was still the conscientious and swift Rose of Flowers queen. She switched between home and work with ease. Sigh. The system sighed. With a husband like this, what more could I ask for? Boom! A sea of flowers dozens of miles wide was placed in the open space opposite Dragon Head Peak. Looking from Rose of Flowers' window, it could be seen clearly. If you like roses, plant them. If you like a sea of flowers, move them. This kind of steely straight man approach was quite a bit like an overbearing CEO. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.